it felt like the writers thought we were stupid.
Yeah.
Sex is boring.
Classical music with anime is painful.
And they give a tiger an iPod. What are they doing?
Whoever was the fighting cinematographer should be fired immediately.
And once I find out the rules for 34, I'm like, oh god, what else is there?
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
We're fucking tangenting. All the people who've like been burning me at this point are going to be feeling like he's on his redemption arc. That's a joke.
Frogs are coming out.
Oh dear lord.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the most handsome men this side of the new year. It's us, so we're back at it again for the second year running to a little podcast encapsulating things that we watched last year, basically, in 2022. But this year, we've done it with a twist. Everything that we're talking about is stuff from 2022, and how we're going to go about this, we're going to go through each month of the year and talk about one thing that came out in that month, which we all watched. Played, read, maybe.
You also didn't mention that Total Fantasy Reverb. I can't remember. The guy in your comment section, he's always commenting on the podcast.
Yeah, Fantasy Reverb. Shout out to Fantasy Reverb.
What
He commented on our last
he
podcast.
said keep it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Feedback.
He's my homie.
Yeah, that guy is really nice.
He's also Canadian, I think, as well, which makes it even better.
Their comment about you reaching a K sub was very nice, though.
It was very lovely. Regardless, he just reached 4K as well, so big deal.
Kudos to them.
But yeah, when I first met him, he had less subscribers than me, so he's popped off recently, so that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll rank them all at the end.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's do that.
You might hear everyone's opinion. It might change it.
Yeah, true. All right.
Yeah, no, I think that was interesting. That's good. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. The rankings, as we say, don't matter. It'll probably change next Tuesday for me.
Oh yeah, it changed on the way. It changed on the way I was walking here.
All right, so for January, we all watched a ranking of kings. It finished in March, but it was airing during January. It's like a whole 24 episodes, so we kind of included it in this January slot because somebody didn't play all the Pokemon Arceus, even though he had a whole year to do so. So yeah.
That guy was a bellend.
Anyway, can kind of one of you kick me off? Because it would been a while since I watched it. You guys really bailed me out.
Well, tell me about episode 6, Jack.
So I mean,
the idea is animated by Studio Wit. So anybody who's into into anime will really know Studio Wit. They animated Vinland Saga Season 1, a lot of the early Attack on Titan seasons.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they've done, but I actually think this may be one of their best animated works because I think nobody knew this show before it came out. If you look at the manga, I'm not sure if you guys like One Punch Man, but have you seen the original webcomics?
Yeah.
So like this is like that, but going straight from manga to anime, and we just took the designs that are quite simple and made them just really thrive, and added a lot of animation spice to it because the style is more simple. It's kind of like a mob psycho in that way. Style's more simple.
To me, it always felt a bit like there was something almost Germanic about it, like the animation. As in, not like from the time period, but like it felt sometimes like a cartoon that would come from Germany a bit. Like the character designs remind me like very much of like child's TV programs from Germany. It's really interesting.
It is very distinct, and it's not anime in its look really that much. I feel like it's maybe
not anime in how it looks.
No.
It's very anime in how it tells its story.
Oh, for sure. And I think this will probably come up later. So when you guys say anime, what do you guys mean?
I mean, usually anime has certain like storytelling tropes, such as backstories. They're really fond of just saying, "This is a backstory of the character."
We're in the middle of a fight. Let's go in depth in this character.
Yeah, let's go in depth and
try and get you emotionally attached to this character just before you kill them.
Yeah, and then boom, he's dead. Okay, so now you're emotionally attached. That's anime. You don't see that very often in.
Well, is that anime or is that manga? Like that's what I'm curious. Cause I haven't read many mangas at all.
No, neither.
I haven't read that. I've read the most here, but I don't think I've really read that many.
To me, that somewhat feels like not enough like planning. Like the planning, taken to like create that piece of media wasn't thorough enough to think about. Okay, how can I naturally introduce these characters into this like story?
Yeah,
and even better because like. It's like this kind of, we always go on about it, this show, don't tell. Backstories, they are showing, like in an anime, like they're still animated. And it's still a form of showing, but it's kind of also that it's a little bit cheap in the sense that you're interrupting the whole flow of the story. The pacing has changed now, and I mean, Ranking of Kings, just to return to it, is a pretty bad offender of that in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
Interesting. Okay.
Like 5 episodes from the finale, and you're still getting backstories on characters like Miranjo.
Okay, yeah. So what I thought with the whole Miranjo thing, and maybe you'll disagree, I thought the whole point is like she is meant to be mysterious and you don't understand her, and then the backstory is meant to reveal that to you later down the line because she is meant to be a kind of more mysterious character. I understand if it's like, I don't know what his name is, but he's like the Hilling's main bodyguard and he's like punching people. I'm not sure Dorsch. I'm not sure if he has a backstory, or like the Snake I think has a backstory at some point. Anyway, like it kind of initially, like, if it's a more sideline character, I do understand. I think that to advocate for Ranking Kings, I think that was the point, to make her more mysterious. I do think
it came at a hindrance though to the flow of the like.
Do you think so? Okay.
To us anyway, at least when we were watching it.
Beginning of the story, it kind of starts off like, hey, you're in quite a cutesy world. You got quite a basic story, but actually the characters themselves, you're not always quite sure initially which side they're on, and there's a few twists and turns. But you do kind of lulls you into. You're not sure. You think you're getting a bit more of a kiddie show, which is maybe a bit more simplistic, and then characters turn out to be a little bit more complex as they go on. And then you hit around about episode 14, and then tries to have this big arc of like one big fight at the end, and it kind of goes on a little bit and doesn't wrap up super well. That's kind of my memory of it. But yeah, I'm not sure if is that similar to you guys at all.
I mean, pretty much that's mine. I would say like the first beginning was like I thought it was really good because I thought it wasn't falling into like the super typical like pitfalls that I see in some shows. I thought it was like just really interesting. You got to see a guy who he's not that great, he's not that mighty, but he's just like really innocent, has a really like cool friend with him, and he's just all about trying to help everyone around him. That was really cool. And I also like their adventure and like meeting, I think it's Desper, the brother. Yeah. And like their training. That was like really cool because it was like showing that he wasn't going to go like massively strong.
He's not going to be like Deku from My Hero and get like eat something to make him stronger. He's got like a special weapon that. I also, not to pivot too far, I did quite like, you have the 3 brothers, they're all kind of kooky, but the one that's stuck in the armor, I thought as like a antagonistic force, he was quite fun to watch because he was just much harder to overcome, and then they had quite a cool scene when they're all just fighting with the
I'd agree. I think that stretched on, or that dragged on. Sorry, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it was like 3 eps. Just focused on him fighting, which was like, yeah, we get it. He is immortal.
Yeah.
And then it would be like, oh, they won. No, they didn't win. Oh, they won. No, they didn't win.
And then he'd kill people, and it's like, now they're healed.
Yeah, that was a huge problem I had with the show, was there was no tension. I lost complete tension when Dorsch was like, he had his leg chopped off, he was like being bitten alive.
This guy's not dying.
He's being like ripped apart, and then he just gets healed. And I'm like, okay, well, he just got healed completely from like that fight.
Yeah, healing develops this ability halfway through the season. Is this halfway through?
No, she's always had it, because she heals Boji at the start.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Boji's snake, actually.
Yeah, that's true. Well, but that actually,
the snake gets
that
steroids.
Appears afterwards. Because it's a backstory.
Yeah.
But the show fucking love backstories.
I see, interesting.
I also thought they need to do a better job of showing emotions through characters, because every single episode someone cried.
I see, yeah. There is a lot of crying.
That's the difficulty with like animated shows in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that they won't have the ability to express as nuanced emotions as something like a live action, because unless they go into some kind of like hyper realistic animation, it's just not a possibility.
Absolutely. But I think there's better ways of showing it than always crying.
I think that's kind of with anime. Those are there's just those like, here's how you express this emotion. It's like frustration. It's like clenching your fists. Like shaking, and then you've got like, okay, someone's upset, they're bawling their eyes out, and they're like, the VA, please go over the top with VA. Oh my fucking lord.
Yeah.
Oh god damn it, man. Fucking hell, I hate
he's getting into the rant. So that's what I would say probably was like the biggest letdowns. Because the annoying things, I really liked the start of it. I really enjoyed the start of it.
It set your expectations high.
Yeah, and I was really liking when he was with Desper. I thought Desper was funny. I thought when it was just him, Desper, and Kage, I was like, that's really cool.
Bros.
And then as soon as it just spoke more about Boris, I was like, he makes no sense.
Yeah,
like he wants to kill his son, but then he's like, actually, I never wanted to be resurrected in the first place. So why did you want to kill your son? where's the connection?
When did he want to kill his son?
At the end, he was like, anyone who doesn't side with me, I'm
We
gonna
killed Boji. Sorry, yeah, I thought you were talking about died.
Oh no, Boji, and then Boji like beat him, and it was a cool animation. Animation's fantastic. I won't doubt the animation.
Oh yeah, animation.
Yeah, animation was great. I thought the fight scenes were awesome, but I just thought like
The story behind it was lacking. And Lars, was there anything you liked about Ranking of Kings?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Like the animation was fantastic, I thought, and like Carson, I found the beginning to be really entertaining.
Okay, so you're with Carson on that, where
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, and there, like the backstories definitely weren't as offensive, or like it's just when it came closer to the end, like it just felt like it was just a reason to just sort of drag it out, and then it's kind of also, you know, at least in my opinion, but I would use that to like form an objective argument that it's, you know, it's not very good storytelling.
Yeah.
Because it feels just quite fragmented.
Yeah.
And it's also just more like that ideology, or not ideology, but it's more like a complex story versus necessarily complex characters, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like you're complicating the story to make these characters more complicated versus, you know, having these characters interact with each other in the current time to draw out that complexity and depth within them. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think this is probably a general issue. I think basically I'm saying like to me it feels very common that you have a really strong anime to start off with. You get into it, and then you just kind of ride that out there, and then you end and you're like, at the end, rather than being like, yes, this was incredible, this is the greatest thing ever.
I mean, this is very much a take from me, but it's like, I think animes are usually very focused on having like a really good idea, or like a concept that's really cool. Like in Chainsaw Man, it's like you got the demons, like they're really cool. I'm sure we'll talk about that more when we come to October. And then you got things like My Hero Academia, sure, it's like, you know, superheroes are nothing new, but it's still like it's a quirk or something. They label it as,
it's like the society around us. Like instead of like there's a few superheroes, everybody like 80% of the world is superheroes, and so they have like one kind of gimmick in a way. Then
and then you got like Stans and JoJo's. You got Nen, is it in?
that wasn't a good idea.
Hunter x Hunter.
That wasn't a good idea.
No, but like you still got these.
If you want to take time to, we can dunk on Hunter x Hunter if we want. I'm happy to.
Did we not do it last year? Did we not do it last year?
No, we didn't do it last year. I get so. I'm going in. I get so confused by like people like popping off about Nen as a magic system. Like, guys, it's so big brain. It's got like 5 different categories, and then a 6th one where they can do anything in it. That's such a smart writing decision. I'm like, no, it's not. What? They're like, I'm just like, and then like, well, guys, don't worry. We've got like a few arcs where you got people with actually different things, and then like, let's just throw this out the window and have our biggest arc, which is just as long as all the Full Metal Alchemists, and give every single antagonistic character like this 6th Nen thing where they can be anything. They can do anything with it, and they give a tiger. I thought, what are they doing? I'm like,
it's a lion.
That's what I was going to say. You're really going to shit on my boy, the lion. And what about the cheetah and his? I don't even know what he did.
No, the cheetah's a sick character because he dies such a satisfying death.
は食わないよあんたの仲間が教えてくれたぜ戦闘中に敵から目を離す
It makes up for all of it. Spoilers for Hunter x Hunter. Don't want, actually, that's going to make some people mad, but I don't care. I don't care.
I mean, look at that.
Yeah, no, I like, every time I come back to it, it's just like all of Avatar The Last Airbender is shorter than the Chimera Ant arc. And like when I think back to the Chimera Ant arc, it's just like, it just feels like nothing happens. I just like, and then like the announcer.
You are putting like one of the best magic systems against like one of the worst in my opinion. Avatar The Last Airbender.
It's so intuitive. Dude, it's not big brain. They don't have to spend 10 minutes explaining to you
think
that they're like special black. This is a different one, but there's another big anime right now, Jujutsu Kaisen, which you guys haven't watched. It feels very similar to Chainsaw Man. It's going to offend a lot of people. But he's like halfway through the battle, it's like, well, this special black fist move is like, he literally gives a number of is like 2.4 times the exponent of a power of a normal punch. And I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, I don't want to be doing math. I want to like intuitively grasp that if you do your move, there's fire coming out of it. And it's like, yeah, it just like makes sense. The same thing with Fullmetal Alchemist also does that great, where you're just like, dude, I got blocks of mud, I'm doing it again. I mean,
they also just do a really great job with going like, a Philosopher's Stone is powerful, a Philosopher's Stone is powerful, you need big sacrifice, and then you see Alphonse use it, and you're just
that's just like payoff.
Exactly.
You need payoff in like your shows. You need to like seed an idea in like your audience, and then that like, I mean, you don't need to like you don't need the payoff immediately. You don't need to like immediately it just pops up and like, oh wow, yeah, okay, that thing you mentioned 5 minutes ago, that becomes extremely relevant right now. But like the Philosopher's Stone is something that you see only used from the villains, and like, so like, I mean, I at least from my recollection, like lust,
they're like the
gluttony,
fake ones. Though.
Oh, they're fake.
They're like the not complete ones. Well, and Alphonse finally gets one, but they make such a big deal. It's like, we don't want to use this because like it's using souls and we got this moral thing. And then Alphonse backed into corner and he's like, and then you see the smoke disappear and this glimmering little gem, and he grabs it and you're like, holy crap! Alphonse is the goodest boy in this whole entire series. He's like such a sweetheart, and he's going in, and then you just watch this fight, and he's like, all intuitively makes sense. You don't have to stop and be like, my power is this now. I've got this Philosopher's Stone. He's like, no, dude, I'm just extending my metal arm into a sword, and now I'm flying a dragon down at you.
The bit where he grabs his arm like comes off, he grabs it, turns into a sword, then he like puts it around like or like someone blocks it.
Oh yeah, someone blocks it.
And then he like,
and then he makes a little flashbang as well. But the only person who mentions it is Kimberly. Kimberly goes, "This is the power of the Philosopher's Stone."
Yeah.
Kimberly, I think, was the only other person who used it.
Yes.
Yeah, because he would like put it in his mouth or something like that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Sorry,
we can talk about.
This is why Fullmetal Alchemist. Literally the second anime I've ever watched, and it's still not been. I hate to be just the normie kid though, because Fullmetal Alchemist is like everybody's favorite.
I know,
but you
but
just gotta. It's just good. It's just good.
It's kind of like also like Avatar, like the last Airbender. Like everyone loves it.
Yeah. Anyway, should we go on to February?
Well, I mean, like I think just to like wrap it up, like Ranking of
Yeah.
Kings by no means I think was like I think for like, and this is gonna sound really like I'm not like anti-anime, but like I think for an anime it was solid, like it was good, but it was to me it was like that first half was really great, like but then the second half
Ending
it just slowed down too much and became a bit rocky with the pacing for me.
Yeah, I'd say similar.
Ranking of Kings, go watch it or watch some clips. You know, some really cool animation and stuff. And
Oh yeah, if you're into anime, it's like I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah.
So February was the Cuphead show. I'm pretty sure that only spanned for like it came out all at once, and then there were another 2 seasons released later down the line. I don't know how, but the first season is the one we're going to be concentrating on this time, and it is about a game called Cuphead, which was like a fully animated sort
Big
of
game.
Yes,
Critically
it was a
acclaimed
huge
game when it came
which
out.
was
Great
not
game.
aimed at children, but it seems to have been aimed at children more now.
It's interesting, right? Because I wouldn't say the game is like for kids, at least in the sense that it's very difficult.
It's very difficult.
But I think I am also underestimating the ability of like children at games, because like Fortnite's a tough game, and I mean like you got like
kids
10-year-olds like
Yeah.
absolutely
Slam.
slamming in
Yeah.
them V-Bucks.
But I think I would probably just start off by saying no, not a show for me.
That's very far. I'm glad we can go to them next month.
All you guys need to know is that the fact that we didn't watch the other 2 seasons, even though they did come out in 2022, is all you need to know. It's like we watched one season and we're like, that's enough for us.
Yeah, it's just, it was so aimed at children. It was so aimed at kids. Like, I'm fine with it being a kids show, that's cool. But I mean, it had no like smart jokes behind it. They were all slapstick and they were all aimed at kids.
Yeah.
That was
I think-
like, I think that's...
I will not lie, I did laugh at some.
Oh no, yeah.
I think my biggest issue, if it was like a continuous story, I would be much more engaged to watch the whole thing. But it's super episodic and it does stuff every single episode. And I'm like, this is really fun. I love the animation is great. It's because it's all in this 1920s like Disney golden age era like animation, which is the game is what it's done. It was very well remarked on that it's all done hand-drawn traditional art. And I think I really like that. Like they kind of mimic like lots of the accents are from America from that time period, which I really, really enjoyed. It's just like, so, I feel like this is probably with a fair few things on this list. Like the aesthetic and like the presentation and how it's wrapped up is really, really like of artistic merit, and I've got nothing but praise for it. But the substance underneath it is just not for me, and that's just kind of how it is. It's like they have a like it is fun. Like maybe if I was watching with someone and like I like turned it on for like an episode at a time, like it was on TV. And it's kind of funny to see like the frogs, like this, like they're like a fun partnership duo. Or you got the devil or the dice head man. Like I haven't played the games. You guys did play the game. Like it is fun, but I'm also like not compelled to watch anymore.
No,
like,
I think you've kind of like you summarized. I think like
that's what I do. That's why I watch this YouTube channel, right? You don't watch for these 2 bozos. You come in for me. Oh, shit.
please. Yeah, but it was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Hey, we're getting so little conversation out of this.
Yeah,
February
I'm-
talk that I'm like,
I will say that I think this is kind of one of the it's just something about we've chosen an extremely varied selection of pieces of
yeah, it's a
medium,
good time to go over it.
and like some of them are aimed at kids, some of them are aimed at adults, and like I think there's always going to be like just because we're free man children, like it's nah, but it's like we're adults, so it's like we're looking for a bit more depth in our storylines versus something that's aimed towards children. And a lot of the pieces of media we have selected are for kids.
Yeah.
And also, I suppose
That is so true. We have
Yeah.
actually.
What
It's
happened
probably because I'm here, isn't it? We're watching all this animated stuff because I'm
it?
the
I
guy
don't
who
know.
likes all the animated
I
cartoon
think so.
stuff.
No, but, I mean,
That was actually his decision.
ranking of king.
No, Cuphead.
Oh, Cuphead,
true,
yeah,
yeah,
Cuphead
yeah,
was
you
mine.
suggested
Well,
it.
because I should have probably read into it a little bit more, but I was very much of the understanding. Okay, it's the game. The game's difficult. I imagined it to be, I was hoping for something maybe. I wasn't looking necessarily for something like super
Chainsaw Man.
adult, like Chainsaw Man, but like something more akin to like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like as you say, I
Yeah.
think pointing out that it's very episodic, which is in a way it's very in theme with those old 80s cartoons which are extremely episodic, like Tom and Jerry or Bugs Bunny and all that
But
jazz.
Tom and Jerry still has that factor where you're like, this is still like. I think the issue with Cuphead is that and like the kids will love it, and you can definitely like. All I'm doing when I'm watching it, I'm really just appreciating them trying to replicate the style more than actually getting engaged with the story. But the issue with Tom and Jerry, you still have adults can still watch it and be like, that's kind of funny, like seeing like the crazy animation and like Avatar still has that. Once you get out of the first season, out of the episodic range, like you get more of that like. Hey, I can still get even as an adult, it still appeals to me. I think even like lots of Pixar movies like Incredibles or stuff like you can still get something out of it. And I think despite it being kids media, it still appeals to all. And I think the issue with Cuphead is that it didn't to us at least. And I still think it's fair to say it's a kids movie, but it can still appeal to me. And I think there may be some later on. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I, as I said before, I think you had summed up very well, like our thoughts in general. So
Awesome.
yeah, let's move on to March.
I need a drink for this.
So that brings us on to March, which was, the legendary game. Its trailer made its way into Scarlet 3x3 last year. So it was the seventh game. Seventh? It is the seventh game, right, in the series, or like from Software's like Hidetaka Miyazaki's game.
Masterpiece.
So you got you had Demon's Souls, then Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro. Yeah, so then Elden Ring was the
seven. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. They've got so many games out there. I know you've played Dark Souls.
I'm a From Software connoisseur, as they say.
and then you obviously played Elden Ring this year.
Yeah.
It was interesting, like you sort of broke off your playthrough. Like you played quite a bit initially, like 30 hours almost, and then like didn't do any of it. And then you came back and like finished it.
Yeah, no, I think I had 3 sections where I played it quite a bit, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
To be fair, I had it in my 3x3 as this trailer.
It was the 4th best thing. The trailer was the 4th best thing you
But
saw
did it meet?
last year.
Did it meet expectations?
Yes, this is the big question.
It didn't meet expectations. It was even better.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I mean, it was. I took days off work just so I could play this game, and I mean, it was beyond.
We didn't play. Okay, it's a good game where we didn't play Smite for at least 3 weeks because these two lot were not. MIA,
I think
missing in action.
I think literally every single day we got to finish work and we just played it.
I think it was to the point where perhaps it was like a bit too much. First day we got it. I mean, like, it was just such a phenomenal game in terms of scope. Like, I think that first week of playing it was probably the best, like, period of gaming, like, or playing a game that I can remember for a long time. Like, for a long, long time. I think I had more fun playing that game definitely than I did my first playthroughs of the other games from the series personally. Just the world, like, and I mean, sure, it's not like the highest resolution graphics. Like if you zoom in on the text,
you guys. Okay, I'm going to say this now. You guys dump on the graphics way too hard. Like you guys do, like to me, like you guys are just like the cutscene. It doesn't look as good as God of War, or whatever. Like,
oh yeah,
I was like, in my brain, I was like, this game looks incredible. I just think like you get to some of those scenes where you're kind of coming over the mountain and you're like, and you just see stuff in the distance, like the design of everything, just like it's a beautiful looking game. is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, and trust
stop.
me, we're not going to dunk on the graphics. 'Cause, I mean, like, graphics doesn't never really mean that much. Yeah, sure. You compare it to something like God of War, which is a story-focused game. They're going to have time.
Yeah,
to
the facial animations, you know, like
exactly.
like you've got your characters you can change your costume of. Of course, my like legs are going to clip through my cape occasionally, and all
That's
this
that's
stuff,
just
like,
a FromSoft
That's
like
from Soft Class.
just
classic.
I mean,
Yeah.
even-
okay, this is the From Software fans copium right now. Oh, that's just what From Software do. It's going to come up again, I swear, later on to this little thing. But
I think, yeah, I mean, for us, like, we found the game so incredibly enjoyable. Like, it's probably the most, like, approachable out in the series, in my opinion, because it gives you so many tools at your disposal to make bosses, and even, like, the most difficult boss in the game, in my opinion, like Melania. There are so many tools that you can utilize to, you know, mitigate her, like, the issues that you're finding with the boss.
I can play my clip right now if you want. If you have any troubles, I got
This is Jack beating them.
Oh, and that could cost him. That worked out. Yeah, that just happened to work out. That's it. Yep. Music King, he looks like he's about to cry, dude. Watching, this is the hardest part. This one. You just want it to be over.
But it was, yeah, I mean, I think perhaps in our first playthrough, at least, the bosses certainly were like, they were a very different breed of boss compared to, like, the game is most similar to is Dark Souls 3. The bosses are so hyper aggressive, and I mean, people make the argument that summons are intended to be used. I'm not so sure on that one because, like, it's your choice. Like, pretty crazy. And I mean, initially it definitely felt like it would be a detrimental experience, or like an initial detrimental experience, but we actually started the game with 5 characters. Like, we started 5 playthroughs and played them synchronously. Well, like, one after another. We'd like beat a boss in one area and then beat another boss in a different area was the next character, and trying to like kind of gauge like what it's like to be a certain level in certain areas as well.
Oh yeah, also just using different builds. So we had like mage, we had like faith, we had arcane, we had strength, we had dex, just to see what it's like all along. We had big weapons, we had small weapons, we had different armor sets. Let's try everything.
Yeah, which was really good. And I mean, we didn't necessarily need to do that because you also have the option once you've beaten one of the bosses in the game to respec your stats, and that gives you.
And that boss is pretty early on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean that resource also isn't. It's not like the most common, but it's not the rarest either.
Like when I finally beat them, I had maybe like 6 of them.
Oh, really?
You know, like I had quite a few. You know, like now I did miss her the first time I went through. So she was like my 5th major boss I beat. So
right, and that is one of the issues with the game is that the balancing. The balancing definitely is an issue with Elden Ring, and I think it's slightly more obvious in my opinion than it is in the other games. In that, like, if you do the bosses in a different order from what's kind of intended. So let's say, for instance, like one of our characters went off to Caleb. Like it's definitely one of the toughest initial areas in the game, especially if you dare to lay foot within the dragon barrow.
Okay.
Where the Black Blade Kindred lives.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
he's the guy who's like standing there. He's like,
You like that?
kills
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
we went initially in there like as one character, and just got like repeatedly smacked up. You know, we tried to take on the misbegotten Leonine with the Crucible Knight. You know, that duo boss.
Oh yeah.
And like
Before you beat the initial.
Oh yeah, before doing any of the starting area.
Yeah.
Some spoilers, perhaps.
Hey, we're spoiling everything. I mean, we should have said that at the beginning, but well.
But yeah, that balance like definitely became somewhat detrimental because like, you know, it's posed as an open world game. You're allowed to go wherever you want, and you can, and you definitely can take on these very difficult bosses initially. It just so happens that if you go and you take on a very difficult boss to begin with, you're probably going to steamroll a lot of those other bosses.
Well, it's not even necessarily a steamroll, but it's like, you know, I mean, you play the game and there are around about 120 bosses or so. Obviously, there are a lot of repeats, but you can go back and Fuckface Manguado on Reddit is saying that this boss is impossible, but you were like, it means I killed him in like 2 hits. You know, really different opinions on it, and it makes it very difficult to sort of have that sort of balanced appreciation for that boss, because a lot of people then be like, actually, you twat, you should have played Bare Fist level 1 and see what the boss is like. And it's like, you know, that whole balance thing, it really hits Elden Ring hard, and I think it's a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a huge problem, like, with all the FromSoft games, but it definitely hits hardest in Elden Ring for that
I think
purist.
Elden Ring is the most volatile in that it can be the hardest of all the games, in my opinion.
I've heard people say the bosses are the hardest in this game out of any game.
Well, no, because they can be, or they can be the easiest.
Yeah,
because
depending on your build.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and if you elect to use summons or not, I mean, like the summons, there's no denying that the ability to draw aggression away from the bosses and give you an opening is extremely valuable.
It's a binary. It's like it's very hard to balance in between that. Like, there's no like gradient of like you are either giving yourself free hits on the boss, or you're not.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's not even that. It's just like, well, sorry, it is that. But it's also like the fact that there's no detriment for doing it. You lose FP, and for the Mimic Tier, you lose health, but that's not really that bad. And at the end of the day, like, they can do a lot of damage. They can still do a shit ton of damage to the boss. They can take away aggro, and you don't lose any damage. If there was a penalty for summoning them, then perhaps it could be seen that, there was a detriment. I mean, there are also some of them which are absolute terrible garbage. Yeah, exactly.
I think, yeah, so my experience, because this is, I think, actually maybe the first open world game I've ever played.
Really?
Oh, wow,
I think it may actually be the first, because
Have you played Minecraft?
I guess I have played Minecraft.
The sandbox games.
No, it's a sandbox.
yeah.
It's not.
I don't know. It's
But,
really-
so I've had so many thoughts about how to talk about Elden Ring, and it's really hard for me to do so, but I think I've never had such a hard time trying to figure out how to play the game for me. I've had to work so hard to figure out how to enjoy this game. Like, lots of games I play, and I'm playing them, and I just naturally enjoy them. Like, I don't have to think about, in a meta sense, am I playing this game wrong to maximize my enjoyment? Elden Ring, I was almost constantly thinking that, and so I'm often just like, this is a hurdle, my brain is always like, I need to destroy this and overcome it in any way, shape, or form. And so naturally my brain, how can I maximize my skill for enjoyment of this game is, how can I maximize my ability to overcome this obstacle, whatever or not my enjoyment is there. The game, like, for me, I just didn't have an education. I was learning on the fly how to play the game in a way I enjoy.
It's so odd, and I kind of blame the...
But that's the nature of the game.
I don't think it's the nature of the game. It's like, it's more like this idea of the game, which I think I kind of want to blame, because it's like everyone talks about how it's like, okay, to truly experience the Souls games, you've got to like bash your head against the boss for like an hour, and then eventually you beat it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be like, hey, no, like, I'm playing the game wrong. I don't believe that. But I do think that there is definitely a possibility that I may have had more fun if I grinded out and got better at the game and eventually learned how to play the game in a... But
you might not have. You might have become demotivated.
So to compare it to another game, Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight locks you in, basically. You've got a little bit of customizability with a few things you can hold, but like in the moveset, you're locked into a sword, a dash, and a few other things, and a wall jump and stuff like that. And to me, like, and same thing with Doom almost, like, you're locked into a flow state where you're able to like really master the tools they've given you. But Elden Ring, and this is what makes it great, it's kind of like DOS in a way. Divinity Original Sin 2 is a fantastic game where you have so much creative freedom to play however you want. You can jank stuff out. We had an absolute blast playing it. And I don't want it's just a different type of game. And it's assuming almost a maturity level or a certain education level for the medium to maximize your enjoyment of this. And I felt like I came into it and I definitely had a good time, without a doubt. I don't want to say I didn't have it. I just feel like I came away, I just never hit that like 10 out of 10 feeling that this is the greatest game I've ever played and I love it to bits. And it's just the greatest thing. And I've had that with other games and I just wonder, like, maybe it's just me and I just will never feel that way with the Souls-like game. Or maybe it's just because I never really learnt it. Carson, you kind of mentioned this earlier, like when we were talking, not today, but like previously, like, because it's my first open world game, because I haven't experienced this much, like, my expectations are like, I don't have any. I just have no expectations to be like blasted through the roof, which seems like for so many people, like going off across the chain,
to the
snowfields. That's so beautiful. And I'm like in my brain when I'm looking, I'm like, I should be feeling so much more now, but I'm not, and I got annoyed at myself in a way.
I think what you said is completely fair, but I think if you're not getting a hard on for when you go down the elevator to the Sophia River and seeing that, Indeed.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, get the
I
brain
didn't.
checked.
I know exactly.
No,
Like,
I'm just
like to
messing
me, but okay, to me with that, I got that. I was like, I'm like 30 hours into this game. I've got so many other places to explore. Oh, and there's more stuff to explore.
Well, that's a very negative, like
I know, but like to me, I'm just like for me, like I was like, there's so much stuff for me to do, and it's overwhelming. That's how I felt. Like, and I'm like, okay, so now I have to plan. So do I do this now? Do I go do it later? And I felt like I can't actually.
I think you're just thinking too much, man.
I may be, but
I think,
but yeah, I have so much time to think. Like I remember that I was probably after my first big binge of the game. Basically, I was like 40 hours in, and I finally got to like the Ray Academy. And that's like how much time I'd spent exploring other places. I'm just like, how far am I in? And like how much? And then Carsten's like, to me, he's like, you may have played like 15% of the game. And I'm just like, oh my word. That like to me that was like that didn't fill me with excitement. That just like almost destroyed me.
really?
Yeah.
wow.
I do think though, if you do like Liurna and Limgrave, like those are definitely two of the more fleshed out areas in terms of like there are definitely more dungeons, catacombs, and caves to explore.
And I think that's actually really good. I think that's a good design.
I mean, it's interesting because quite a few people feel the opposite in that it kind of the game sort of funnels a little bit.
Okay. I did hear something like the boss funnels at the end, like when you've got to fight
gauntlet.
4 bosses.
The
in
gauntlet, yeah.
And I thought that's great. That's the closest I got to that 10 out of 10 feeling. I'm like smashing each boss in a row. It's like building on hype on hype on hype. Gideon, you spend this time with him through this whole entire game, talking to him, chatting to him, he's explaining to you stuff, and then he turns on you in the end because he's seen the future, whatever. And like, dude, that is sick. I'm finding him now. And then I go to this Godfrey fellow, which I've been hearing the whole game, and I'm finding him now. And then I finally get in there, and I'm just like, okay, this Radagon guy, whatever, and he's playing this big theme, like the theme that you open up every single time on the game. Like, every single time I open up the game, every single time I've left the game, it's like so amazing. And then I actually beat Radagon without any mimic or stuff like that. Like I pushed myself, and I was like, dude, this is sick. And then I see him getting pulled into the ground. I'm like, oh my word, this looks spectacularly amazing. Like, oh, like it's just like after, like it's just like I think it's perfect ending to a game, like where you're just able to condense down the story, and they're not trying to string it out, and they're like, hey, we're going to smash you again and again and again with absolute like class bosses where you're just like having such a great time doing them.
If you also want a bit more of a sexy fact about Gideon, the more bosses you kill, the more spells he has.
Oh,
'Cause
really?
He learns the spells of the bosses you kill.
That's so cool. See,
That's
so Elden Ring's a great game. Like when I'm watching people talk about it or explain it or think about it, it's amazing. But when I play it, I'm not always in that like this is the best game I've ever played.
It's so strange because I mean, like, yeah, you know, we've spoken about it before. When we were literally exploring places, we would find somewhere and be like, there can't be anything.
For us, it was the opposite.
Yeah, it was
because it was more like, you know how the map,
It's incredible.
The map kind of expands. It's like
It's so
I mean,
smart.
so many people have spoken about like Donkey's video. I think highlights it very well.
Yeah.
Start, the map is like this, and you go, damn, this game is big. Then you get teleported to the other side of the map and realize, oh my god, this game is big. Then you get teleported to the top of the map, and you go, whoa, this game big.
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
you know, you open that chest and all of a sudden you're like, where the fuck am I? And there's like these guys with sticks and they're like, and they
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you're like, dude, am I still in Limgrave or something? And then you look at the map and you're like, where the fuck?
And then you look out, and then you look outside and you find out you're in Croydon, and you're like, oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like it's fascinating that two people can have like.
It's a mixed thing, and I think it's like it's such an impressive game. Like to see them like create this game. I mean, like it is beyond unbelievable, and I don't want to like take away from like the actual craft or anything of the game. It's just like it's like an amazing game that was not made for me at all at the state I'm in, like with my journey. And I think that's probably the best way I can describe it. Like,
I reckon you might really enjoy if you went online. You might really enjoy those like people invading you. You might really enjoy summoning random people. You might enjoy like a co-op playthrough.
Yeah,
maybe that might.
That's how I enjoyed DOS. Like if I played DOS by myself, like I think with also Elden Ring, there was this constant fear of FOMO. Like, I'm missing out on something. Yeah. I'm missing something.
I mean, I was going to ask you actually. So, not which one you think is better, but in terms of which one did you have? Would you say you enjoyed more, Dark Souls or Elden Ring?
I couldn't tell you. I
really?
feel like I both enjoyed them. It is tough. Like I enjoyed, like, there's moments where I really enjoyed them, but like, maybe the reason why I feel like I didn't make it hard enough for myself is because also I'm not sitting there at the end of a boss and going, oh, that's the greatest feeling ever. Like, I finally beat it. Like, I feel that for 5 seconds and then it's over.
Really?
I feel like
I don't
I'm
know.
not got like the high of like an hour afterwards. Like I would like after a clutch smash game or clutch smite game where I'm like buzzing for a
Really?
long time. Like, and I feel like that's where you're meant to. And I feel like I'm watching these people like you see like I feel like if I knew about the jumping, you could like roll, jump, like and then stab and then back off and then roll, jump.
I'm
and
sure
then
you've
stab.
seen that clip where when Melania goes up into the air and like she creates like these apparitions of herself which are like
Yeah,
formed of
oh, yeah.
butterflies. And there's like some clip of some guy and he's like someone dodging all these like all the butterfly attacks like with all these different like methods, which is just so like it's so
Interesting.
cool and so
Yeah.
We spent a long time talking about Elden Ring. Like for us, obviously, it was an incredible like game experience.
So which were your favorite bosses?
Oh,
I want to say this right now just before we close out.
For me personally, Mugman, Moog, the Blood Omen. He was probably my favorite boss. He was like, I think he's definitely the fairest out of the really tough challenges in the game.
Okay, he's the one that like
He's the one who goes Dynasty.
yeah, the one
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And he goes, yeah. Actually, that
was a controversial move. I remember
Yeah.
people complaining about that.
Yeah, it's because you need a certain power to avoid all this damage.
Yeah,
physics.
yes.
Yeah, you need
Well,
to
actually,
set
doesn't even
physics
avoid all the damage. He actually still damages you. Anyway.
I mean, Moog is my favorite. I'll let you answer yours afterwards, but it is interesting because the first time I had played and beaten Melania, and I just did the last thing, which was just smack my head against it, keep doing the same thing, and I can beat it like on my technical abilities, or at least I'd hope to.
Yeah.
And that took me like an hour and a half, and then I eventually overcame it, and like I was like, God damn, that boss sucked. But I was still like extremely hyped from beating it. I jumped up and down.
Yeah.
Our trophy, because they record them on the PS5, is actually gesturing the point down gesture. So,
Couldn't miss the opportunity. But it's funny though, because now after having played her, like I've beaten her probably like 10 plus times now, like I've come to appreciate her moveset so much more. I still think Waterfowl Dance is an extremely oddly designed move, and it's kind of not unfair, but it's an odd design that it's such a volatile move that can just take your whole health bar away, and she could or she couldn't use it, like it's by chance. I mean, it definitely is something where summons become a really useful tool against her, because the summons will take away her Waterfowl Dance, but then she does heal all the health. But I have come to appreciate her as a boss much more, and she's much higher closer to the top. Godfrey is also a fantastic boss in my opinion, but I'd probably stick with Moog, the Blood Omen. He was probably my favorite boss.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Carsten?
for me, it'd be between Radahn and Malekith. I used to hate Malekith. I used to think he was one of the worst bosses in the game.
Really?
He's a horrible boss to learn. He has a lot of like I dislike that anime move where he like sticks his sword in the ground and like swipes come
Explodes.
over.
Yeah.
Well, no, don't.
If it's anime, it's bad.
no, but you get me. Like
Yeah,
Radagon has this like teleporting. It's like super anime. Like no, and you're like, oh my god, it's annoying. But like what I'm talking about is like Malekith, not the one where he explodes the ground, because I think that's okay. It's like when he sticks it into the ground and then like causes loads of like, sword
It's
swipes.
like the Waterfowl Dance and
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah.
But it's just like, what
And
am
it
I-
also like applies the black.
yeah,
knife.
it applies the black flame to you, and it's just like, oh, that's really stupid. But I thought he was great. But I personally think Radahn probably beats him just a little bit, just because I think Radahn is like fantastic. He looks really dumb the first time you fight him. He looks like an idiot, especially when he like goes into the
I heard
distance.
the backstory, so it's better now. But
Yeah, absolutely. So you hear the
Right.
backstory, but also at the same time when I was fighting him, I was like, it's actually kind of epic, because if you get on your horse and he's on his horse, then it's like kind of like a duel, and you're like jousting each other, and then it's just really awesome when like he jumps into this guy and he becomes a meteorite, and that's just absolutely wild. And he's also got like
That
a
was
really,
true.
he's got a
Did
really
you see
cool
Aspen
song.
Gold's reaction to that? That was funny.
No, I didn't.
He's got like a really awesome theme tune as well that you can hear in the fight, which
Music was fantastic.
yeah. But
Music was fantastic.
Jack, who was yours? I got a feeling it might be Rykard.
Sorry, which one's right? God.
Schneck.
He's the one who
Schneck.
gives you the blast.
Snake was cool. The Snake was cool. I think first phase Radagon.
You
so not
really
Elden
enjoyed
Beast.
Radagon.
I actually really like. And I think it's maybe because I limited myself. So when I beat him, I was like, yes. And then I got to the Elden Beast, and I was like, screw this. I'm using the Mimic. Basically.
I do think that boss would just have been made better if they separated those two bosses.
Yeah, I mean, it's like once you beat so it's something that actually happens in Bloodborne. Lol, I'm not going to tell you, but the final boss is split into two parts. However, even if you kill the first part, you no longer have to do the first part.
Oh, okay,
which
that's
I
cool.
think would have worked better for
Yeah.
Radagon.
I feel like so anyway with like Radagon, it was nice because I always like the humanoid bosses where I know it feels more obvious when I'm about when I should fight, like fighting dragons, like for me was just very confusing, and I always felt a bit unsafe doing it. Never learned how to do it properly, and I feel like once you learn how to do them properly, you just trivialize them a little bit. Another one I really liked was the Briar.
Eleanor of the Briar.
Yeah, like he's like he has like short range moves, and you get far away, and he has big, long, sweeping moves, and I'm like, oh my word, like there's like so much stuff for me to. There was a bit more of a dance going. I think Radagon also got a plus because there is a dance, but it's also the final boss of what I thought at the time, and then it like has the theme tune's great, has a great bit of music and
Awesome. I think we've covered that one.
I need the toilet
I
real
need toilet
bad.
as well.
All right, Jack. Sonic.
All right, so for April, finally we're getting off Elden Ring onto something that may be a bit shorter.
And better.
It was Sonic 2 and better, yeah. Sonic 2, movie, you know, Sonic's had these recent movies.
I think that's a bit generous.
Comedy.
It's a masterpiece. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I think we didn't decide straight away that we were going to have it on our list. So if you follow my Twitter, which probably I don't know how many people watching this do, but you would have seen me rank things throughout the year.
You rated it.
So I
think
rated
you
it
5. Also.
I rated it 5 as my lowest rating of the year. Oof. And which is pretty high. I mean, like, it's kind of sad to think that 5 is my lowest rating. I would have liked it to be lower, like at least a 2. I would like to see a 2 this year, but I just don't watch much stuff. I dislike, I guess.
I mean, yeah, exactly. What's the point? I mean, I think I'm gonna kick off the bat with the Sonic one. I think it was honestly, it did what it was supposed to do. It was funny in some points. I mean, the best part about it was just Jim Carrey. Like
It was a meme.
Jim Carrey was just the best part. Like
You see, Earth is my turf, G.
If you don't know how to floss, you'll be lost without me.
I understand nothing of what you just said.
I helped you retrieve the emerald.
he's Jim Carrey right before I
Jim Carrey, yeah. I thought he was okay. I preferred his character more in the first film.
Interesting. I thought he did a really good job on the second one. I just thought everyone else, other than maybe Sonic and Tails, was just big no. And Knuckles. I mean, Knuckles was a little.
It just
bit weird.
like he just sounded weird.
Yeah,
Like he sounded like he was forcing it so hard. He was like, "I am gonna get the Chaos Emeralds," and I'm just like, "Oh my word, this guy is like."
I think that the bit is like right at the end, where it's like they're jumping into the because they all live with them. Yeah. When those fuckers, they're little critters, they're gonna be shitting all over the place.
everywhere. I mean, he's
especially the old chili dogs. I mean, Hedgehog shouldn't be eating chili dogs. That's gonna do ruins to his digestive system.
My anxiety of him like filling the whole room with bubbles when they're away on the wedding, they left like, "No, Sonic, don't do anything bad." And it's like, "Oh, it's fun time. I'm a child." I'm like, my anxiety spiked in the theater.
I mean, my biggest issue was just the whole like Hawaii scene and the marriage scene. The wedding was just so awkward, and it was not very well acted. And I don't know. It kind of. I almost felt like the first one did a good enough job with just having Sonic in it, because the having Sonic in it was good enough for the film. But
okay, so I was saying I didn't manage to get around to watching the Sonic movie, the first one, before I watched the second one.
Oh,
And
really?
after watching the second one, I'm not gonna watch it. Like that's why I thought I was like, I don't have to watch it. So I think for me, Jim Carrey, while it was fun, he wasn't Eggman for me. I think that's the best way. For me, I was like to me, Eggman has that voice, and like he's like just being weird and wacky. I actually thought the final fight, like to me, it had a bit of that like nostalgic catharsis of seeing him getting on the Chaos Emeralds, and it was like for me, it was a bit of a funner fight. I don't know, like at the end, but yeah.
Nah, I probably agree.
yeah, I think so. I think the thing is, you got to take away from like the references it gives, and then just put it on its own piece of media. Because like, sure, if I was a Sonic fan, I mean, I don't mind Sonic, but like if I was a real Sonic fan, I probably would enjoy it. Has a lot of references to Sonic.
Yeah, and
different characters.
And I always go back and think like, and this is not so much in credit to the second, but the first film, like they released that trailer where Sonic looked incredibly cursed. Yeah. And then they did actually go and like redo him, which I think is
a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
But unfortunately, I just don't have much to say. Really, it's one of those things.
Can we please just for a second talk about how they almost like killed this one guy by like they threw this thing under him, and he like went up into the air. Like it was like one of those, you know, Portal 2. They have like these like, I don't know. It's like a, what's the right word for it?
I don't
it's like anti-gravity or something, and he like goes up into the air, like keeps going. It's in the Hawaii scene.
Yeah.
It was like one of Tails' technology. It's like one of the girls threw it. And it was also the boomerang as well. He threw it and it like killed it. It looked like it killed.
I was just in April.
The
the dance scene though,
Which was it dancing?
It was when they were in Russia.
They were in Russia and they had to have a dance battle with this guy in a pub. And then like
so ridiculous. They were like dancing his dance, and then he was like, Sonic
you
said
guys
no.
suck, you can't
Then
dance.
he put Bruno Mars on. Yeah, you don't remember
It was like
Was that like do?
yeah, exactly. It was so
Who's downtown gonna get this? Oh god, that's so lame. I can't even. I suppressed that in my deepest like thoughts.
it's such a good meme though. It's like watching it, I was very bored up until the final fight. Like it's like sparks of entertainment to boredom. Like kind of move, but like in retrospect, like being like, dude, that scene was wild, and that's like where I think most of my enjoyment from this movie came from. Think about like, dude, that dance scene was just wacky, or like this whole, like you just kind of like in your brain because even though it's an hour time, you've cut out all the boring parts in your memory. You've just got all the funny parts.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So, yeah, bit of an indictment on old Sonic, but we got Mario movie.
It is what it is.
next year.
Yeah. When is that meant to be released? March?
March, I
April,
think,
I think.
Oh, is it
April.
April?
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing for April.
So for May, we watched Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It's quite a mouthful of a title. A really niche title at the time. I don't think many people had really spoken about it
Beforehand, no.
Yeah, and it's essentially, I mean, it's actually quite hard to explain, but it's similar to that of The Matrix, but also not. So someone develops the power to jump into alternative universes to change the reality around them.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complicated. That's an extremely brief example,
Yeah.
but hey ho, I thought it was I thought it was really good. Really enjoyed it. The characters were really funny. Like that first scene is hilarious. Like when they enter and he changes, or her husband changes into like a fighting maniac, and he's like using like.
I love the lady like that he was that they were talking to like she was a recurring.
She has like the audited stash.
This movie is insane. It's crazy. It's absurd. And that's the best way to describe it. Just go into it. Like people try and describe to it, like
it's not almost even worth like having that explanation. It's kind of just like, as you say, it's like just the experience.
I've heard some people go like, "What's the story of it?" And I'm like, I don't know. You just watch it.
But it's like
you can't boil it down to a good hook. I don't think.
No, and like it tackles the two vital aspects, or like two things that I love to find in my films and shows, which is like one, it's just entertaining. Like, I wasn't ever bored in the film. And then the second one is, there is such a depth to, I think, a lot of the commentary that can be found within it.
Yeah.
Which is really fun to explore. In my case, I just watch someone who explains it. And I find those thoughts really interesting.
Yeah, or I wouldn't make a YouTube video about it or something like that. That's similar to what... Yeah, no, I think that's a very similar thing. I think also for me, like... it's also showing a part of like the Asian American immigrant experience. And I've been friends. We have a mutual friend that is from Malaysia. His family's from Malaysia, and he moved to the UK. And I was talking to basically Kelvin about like his experience with this. I've also got other friends who are like Filipino and moved to the UK and Newcastle, stuff like that. So it's interesting to hear like to me, I almost had like a kinship with their family dynamic of running this laundromat because I've been in Kelvin's house eating food in a way, and it's a bit it's not exactly the same thing. The British. I'm not sure where these people are from. Are they from Taiwan initially, or they're from China?
China.
So, different countries, two different countries, but there is a similarity and nice being able to I think one of the directors is also an Asian American immigrant.
The other guy is actually, he has got cameos in it.
Oh.
He's the guy who wants to be spanked or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of heart there. And I think also it all ties together really well in this, it's quite nihilistic, but optimistic nihilistic. The themes are nicely interwoven with the entertainment, as you were talking earlier. People may not like to, I guess, admit it because they want to feel like it's deep and there's objective deepness to it that you have to like because it's deep. But initially, why you get invested in something is because the aesthetics and the packaging around it is beautiful. Would I like Vinland Saga? I want to have to bring up, would I like Vinland Saga if it wasn't Vikings and it was maybe samurais instead or something like that? Maybe not. The fact that it is Vikings, and I really like that part of history that it takes place in, is really, really good, and how that links together with everything else. That's what makes it really, really special for me.
And that's what actually draws you into going to that extra level, which is finding that depth.
Exactly.
Because for me personally, I watched this film released this year. I can't remember the director's name, I'm afraid. They have the Key and Peele skits. It's Nope. And I thought it was okay. but I just personally didn't find it very entertaining, so it didn't draw me into like thinking about all the hidden like and subliminal messages, which were like when I went onto Reddit and like read into them, they were really engaging and like interesting. But I kind of I wouldn't have done that naturally. I kind of just did that like because I was like, oh, I'm just bored on my way to work one day. Whereas something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, for the whole film at least, in my experience, I was like, fully engaged with the medium.
And it's not even just that. I think it's also funny. I think it's
hilarious.
It's got the point where the guy jumps on his ass and it's
Yeah,
fighting.
exactly.
You got the point where there are rocks,
Yeah,
and then she just says like "fuck," and then they're like, "Wait a second, you can't swear," and it's like it's a joke. It's so weird. It's such a strange.
Everything all at once. It just goes everywhere. And I think watching the movies, and it's just like such an experience, and there is like an earnestness to it as well. Like I think there's something to be said about, and maybe we'll get on to this a bit more later with the other series, is that there is one thing to criticize and say everything's bad and be cynical and pessimistic. And I think pessimism and being cynical, while often aligned with the realism, often get mistaken for more cynical it is, the more pessimistic it is, the more realistic it is. And I feel like the great thing about it actually offers a little bit of hope and a little bit of positivity at the end, which I think gives a different color and flavor to it.
We were kind of circling this conversation around the depth, and I was just curious to hear what your opinion of like some of the theories that were out there about the film were. So at least, I mean, one that I had kind of like was initially thinking on, and then I'd heard other opinions which were somewhat around the same sort of waterhole, which is like this idea that it's very much about the introduction of like internet. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once is kind of like this description of kind of what the internet has become nowadays, and the ability to sort of jump into the shoes of another life or another person is so much easier with this, like with internet. Like you scroll through Reddit, for instance, and you see like a video of what it's like to live in somewhere on the other side of the world. Like it's a really like engaging topic and interesting to think about. And then you have this sort of the bagel, if you can remember in the film, that is this epitome of everything, everywhere, all at once. It's too much. And sometimes we find ourselves a little overwhelmed by this,
That's a very interesting idea. I like that a lot. I mean, I can say as someone who does have an online persona, it's like people who are watching this that think they know me, they don't really know me. They know a completely different side to me if they've either read my Reddit comments or my...
They know you if you had your Vinland Saga persona, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
Viking Jack.
Yeah, exactly. They'll most likely mostly know me for whatever takes I have on Vinland Saga, which is a series I do like and talk about, but I do a lot more other than that. But that's just because of what I put out there. That's not like... But that's an interesting take, how you can, like, in a more extreme sense, just become loads of different things at once. Yeah. I think I didn't delve super into some of the things, but I thought, like, I saw one about, like, how it... what's the main husband's name? Because I feel like he was the heart of the movie.
I can't remember his name, but he plays the kid in Indiana Jones 2.
Temple of Doom.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he does.
Interesting. But...
What's his name?
As a character, he was just so full of heart and compassion, like particularly his normal form, not his like cool swagger form or whatever. And it kind of it's nice to see that kind of, I guess, type of male character.
Oh yeah,
exalted in a piece of media.
Well, I mean, that's the point, right? Like he has this hardcore form, but in fact, that's not the form that wins.
Exactly.
The form that wins is the one that's peaceful and kind and tries to be nice and teaches his wife that there's more to life than.
That is so true. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I think. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about this more with other pieces of media, but there has been, a surgence of sort of like
hypermasculine.
Well, that's been around for a while, I think. I think now it's kind of like, no, we need to go the other way. We need to have like the hyper female characters, but in truth, there's a far more like delicate middle ground where it doesn't matter what sex you are. You can be male or female, but like that kind of a character are like those are the ones we should be cherishing more in our media, at least in my opinion. And maybe I get labeled a cuck for that kind of a take, but like it's. Another film that I thought did that really well in my opinion, was Turning Red by Pixar this year.
Oh, interesting. I did not watch that, but that was one of the ones you think, oh, you guys thought it was good. I heard very mixed things about
well,
it.
I mean, it's just everyone like that. You know, you go onto the Reddit crowd or you go onto some site and they're going on the right wing go, it's the most woke film ever.
Yeah.
At the left wing go, oh my word, it's like the most incredible film ever.
And they just fight
Yeah,
over it.
and it becomes much more about the
wokeness.
fight, and it's a distraction then from what the media is actually trying to tell. And there, the father plays a pivotal role in the story, and he's not like other pieces of media we will get onto. He's not like portrayed as like some loser or some arrogant twat. He's just a dad.
Yeah, he's just like he's quiet.
It's kind of like internet. Can we move on, please, and stop getting mad at the people who are mad, at the people who are mad, and just be like, just ignore all of them. Don't get sucked in, and just enjoy.
Yeah, of course. But I think the people who are creating pieces of media sometimes try and use that to send their own political messages and instigate these kinds of things because that draws attention.
True. I don't have a problem with them putting political messages into the media, but if they're trying to get that reaction and then it just huffs everybody, then I think...
I think there's a movie we're going to review very soon, which I was like baffled people had a problem with. I was absolutely baffled, but we'll get into that later down the line.
But there will be also TV series later on that you can definitely see the criticism.
Oh yeah.
You know, like before anybody's like, oh, these guys are woke or these guys are like alt-right or whatever, like we're just
I think we're
chill.
I think we're just pretty middle ground. I think I'm in it more for the story, and if I'm like,
we're not even in the battlefield. We're just going to comment on it vaguely.
I mean, like being woke is such a weird term, and it's such an internet like termed coin. Like, I would label myself as a progressive person. Like
but there's always someone online who's more progressive than you and may make you
unless
feel
he's
bad.
playing Smite, then he's not a progressive.
He went on a craze of just Persona.
Yeah. It was actually quite healthy, I think. No, I'm not even kidding. Because like I was playing Smite at the time, and Smite is so shit.
Yeah.
And it's like so toxic.
Yeah.
And I actually wanted this very much as an excuse just to shit on Smite. To be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm just kidding. I'm kind of not. When it comes to Smite, but fair enough. That's true.
Yeah, it's just Lars the biggest masochist of us all.
Absolutely. It was either this or take my balls to a chair and smash them with a hammer.
Why is it either this or that? What were you going to do? What were you doing?
The one testicle you had left.
So what do you mean? I like never say anything.
When you call your team shit, they're all dog shit. They should kill themselves.
That's progressive. that's not non-progressive.
We're progressing to winning. Come on, guys.
No, obviously you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, I think that sums up anyway everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll definitely say give it a watch if you have.
Oh yeah,
it will be enjoying no matter what. Even if you don't know what the hell's going on, I think it's still worth a watch.
And I think
2 hours.
And I think A24, like the publisher, I think they're the publishers. They're obviously not the studio, but like they seem to be funding and like pushing these projects which are really out there. Like they pushed like The Lighthouse from the year before.
Yeah. And we should move on.
Absolutely. I need to strap myself in for this one and go to Beyond Infinity because the next one is Star Wars. All right.
This guy. I'm sorry for your ears, guys, everybody.
Okay, it's Lightyear. And I think we kind of put this one in a bit more because, like, I think this was one of the ones we looked at the start of the year and we were like, oh shit, it's like a Toy Story film. And we were like, that's insane, let's put that on. And like when it eventually came to it, there was such a like, again, it's like this whole controversy around this one fucking tiny thing.
That's what I'm baffled about. That's what I was saying in the last one. I was saying I'm baffled that a film like Lightyear caught so much controversy. I was like watching it and I was like, there is one kiss in it and the character is never mentioned again, nor is she like shoving her mouth in someone else's mouth either.
I mean, I've heard...
I just don't get it.
Chainsaw Man is way more problematic in terms of other stuff. Like, everyone's like, oh man, this Chainsaw Man anime is pretty good, huh? And it's just like, oh guys, we saw 2 ladies kissing in one scene that was taken out in China. And they're like, oh my word, here we go again, boys.
How could that scene be taken out? It was like half a second.
But you know what was hype? And no one else here will prove it. It was Clay Davis was in it and I was popping off.
Who was Clay Davis?
The Wire.
Yeah.
But who was he?
He was the guy that took over. He was the same actor.
Back up. We need backup. Get the Zap Patrol.
All right, team, let's go.
Major crimes.
Shit. They gonna come talk to me about money laundering in West Baltimore? Shit.
I had no clue.
Unfortunately, we never got the she. It would have been. It would have been
anybody's money if he's giving it away.
Oh God!
Oh,
now you
shit.
make me want to watch The Wire.
Back on it. But
Go watch that video.
I mean, that is. That was. Oh, no.
Shut the fuck up.
We're gonna no.
Shut the fuck up.
We're fucking tangenting. We're tangenting.
Shut the fuck up.
We're tangenting, man. We're tangenting. It's natural. It happens. It's the way of life. Jack's video got I don't know why. It just
it pisses me off that I didn't get enough traction.
It's like you put the amount of effort and love and attention you put into that video, and like people just completely misunderstood your video. It was like, The Wire's not like anime. No, that never was the point. The point was entirely.
They saw the title and they judged the book by its
Jack
cover.
definitely got the
But hey, but guess who liked it? These two lads.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what that matters, folks.
There definitely
That's what
were
that
more
matters.
people, and there was like someone very
meta power.
There was someone someone very reasonable jumped into that Reddit thread and like also had put the comment like, yeah, like it's not so much a conversation about The Wire being like anime. It's more a conversation about introducing people who are, your target audience typically are people
probably who watch more anime. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, because like around Vinland Saga, manga, like
exactly.
all of that kind of same crap. but anyway.
Back to what we were talking about.
All right.
No. I'm gonna strike off by just saying, like, I'm sorry. It just it was aimed for kids, but it was boring. Like I couldn't quite get through it. It had good moments.
In the writer's room, I feel like as a grand idea, cool idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
And good. Buzz meeting future Buzz, and future Buzz being the misinterpreted
Zurg.
Antagonist of Zurg.
Yeah,
that was cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And there's a meta thing where like this is the movie that made Buzz Lightyear toys hyped in, and I thought that was interesting.
I just felt that was a really weird way to like tie the knot between the two series to kind of get more people to like. Obviously, because it's a Lightyear film, it's gonna always have, a link to that Toy Story.
So my opinion is kind of like, I don't expect them to link it in, and it's nice they kind of linked it in a very loose way, which I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But the thing is, I like on paper, I was like, wow, this evil Buzz character sounds really interesting, and then it just kind of fell a little bit flat for me. I was like, dude, like on paper, this sounds so cool. I will say the best part, and this is almost like typical Pixar, it's like Up, like where the best part of Up is like the first hour. The first half an hour. Like the fact that he's going through time so fast, and you got this really good emotional core of like everybody's aging around him, and he's trying really hard.
And he's so driven with this mission that he forgets to enjoy the people he loves around him.
That's what the story at the end is all about. But you miss it. You miss it.
No, but that's also with Up, because with Up. The first 10 minutes of Up are like, in my opinion, masterclass. At least a masterclass in drawing out emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if necessarily they're the best storytelling. They don't they don't have the depth necessarily.
But that's it's just like no words, just show you everything you want, and you're like, dude, that just hits, and they just line up. They just line up all the bowling pins to hit the strike, and they do it well. And I think it opens on this thing, and then it turns into something like. I hate to use the term generic, but just turns into something more normal where they're just going through the motions where Buzz, of course, he has to learn that he has to trust a girl. Like, how many times have you seen old veteran man having to trust,
It's not trusting a girl. I think that's I think it's just trusting other people.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it.
For me, it felt like a bit like very similar to other stuff, and it just kind of.
It almost felt like they were playing very safe. They just thought, this sells, so let's.
We're okay with this being a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Like boom, we're gonna hit you with like an 8, 9 out of 10 intro, and then we're just gonna hit the 6 out of 10 and ride out for the rest of the time, and then I don't know if it's intentional, but that's kind of what it turned out for me. Like, it had a strong start, and I was like, man, this was really good. Clay Davis is in it. I'm popping off.
Oh shit.
And exactly, and then later on, I was just like. I came in the movie theater. I was like, I feel like I can't believe they're saying this, but I felt a little bored despite what happened before.
I mean, I think just one of the better characters was the cat. Honestly, I just prefer
the cat was very good.
I just prefer the cat.
Like, whoever came up with the cat, I mean, honestly, Year of the Cats, because like games like Stray came out, and you know, there's definitely a vibe around cats.
Yeah.
Isn't it frogs?
What's the Chinese New Year this year? Like,
Isn't it bunny?
Maybe I wouldn't know.
Bunny. But I thought, I mean, I thought it was actually like it was a decent watch. I would honestly describe it somewhat similar to how I would describe like my experience with Toy Story 4.
Yeah, I think it was
just like a bit like
by the motions.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, animation is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's
I do think Toy Story 4 was better. And
but
the lighting in that
really
was stupid good. Like,
yeah.
To be fair, I watched it on like. We were at like a mate's house and they've got like a really nice theater with surround sound, and so their screen was and the lighting. I was like, how do they look this real but still maintain that cartoony look? Like Lightyear was just less trying to be super realistic with the lighting and stuff. It was really good. Right. Anyway,
I think it's just one of those things that we've advanced so far. Like when we watched Avatar, whatever the hell it was, the last Airbender.
Way of the Water.
The last Airbender. Might as well be last Airbender now. Like the animation is just absolutely incredible at some point.
Wait, what are we talking about?
This is Way of the Water, right?
This is Way of the Water.
Oh, we are talking about okay. You said Airbender.
Yeah, it might as well be called Airbender because the next fucking thing has fire tribe people in it. Okay, you know we're getting
that
there.
is true.
Oh, really?
The next film's gonna be.
We were going to watch that, but
anyway,
someone didn't want to watch a 3-hour film.
Regardless,
while not watching the original one either.
Oh, you never seen the original?
I never watched the first one.
Holy fuck.
Hey, Gomez.
But like, what I mean is like, we got to a point where I think animation can no longer be the overriding factor unless the animation is unique.
Yeah.
Then I think
and that's something. If we're going back to Ranking of Kings, which at least that, in my opinion,
he's trying to salvage himself.
All the people who've like been burning me at this point are going to be feeling like he's on his redemption arc.
Quick, throw a backstory in.
Bring out the fucking baby photos.
When Lars was a young man, he hated backstories so much.
I don't want to go to Japan, Mom.
Another one, Barcades. Anyway.
We were doing this. We're only on June. Oh my word!
Wait
by the
until
time December comes around.
October comes and we're just not even speaking. But
we are 50% through. But anyway, I think actually, in all due credit, it is very much, as you say, like kind of, it's almost becoming this Pixar formula where they play sort of like a very safe card. The comedy, in my opinion, was not good.
It felt flat.
It felt like Pixar Marvel. In a way, it just kind of felt like
quippy.
We're taking it. We're just doing what the audience will go and watch. They may not think it's the greatest thing ever, but it'll get the numbers, and we're happy with that.
And it's also just like a very safe thing to put your kids in front of.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I think I'd actually say it was okay. Like,
Exactly. I say 6 out of 10. You know, 5 is average.
It's Sonic.
It's solid. but 6 is good. That's when it's more good than it is bad. And definitely, it had a really nice moment in it, and then just didn't manage to keep it up, and so a bit forgettable, I guess, maybe. So for July, wow, we're already halfway through the year. We're basking in the summer sun.
Well, we're on the 7th one, so we're just going beyond it.
Just over half is The Boys Season 3. Now, just because my brain is mush, all of us did watch Season 2 and Season 3 at the same time, planned together, so we may unintentionally squash them together. We are trying to keep Season 3 by itself, but those who don't know what The Boys is, it's kind of like a superhero parody, but very much tying into a critique of American culture that is quite, just American in general, that's gory. I really want to dodge around the word edgy because it feels so like negative and pejorative, but it's edgy and it's shocking, but it's basically in this current climate is a very unique experience for your average superhero movie, and definitely go watch it. I guess if you watch Invincible, it's kind of similar to that, but also very different. And
it definitely, I think, focuses much more on a political.
Well, it definitely knows that it's trying to capture what celebrities are like. But if celebrities had like immense power and controlled over it, because it's also trying to show off that like celebrities are chained back by these sort of corporal
corporate visions,
corporate
and,
vision
of making money and controlling.
That's kind of what the end is all about, right?
Yeah.
He then realizes, I don't need corporate behind me. He starts ruling his own.
So let's talk about.
Okay, so Aaron, before we get to that, I want to kind of give an overall. So after watching season 2, I did actually give it a 7 out of 10 on my thing, on my little Twitter list. I think I still stand by that because overall, The Boys isn't my type of show exactly. It definitely has stuff I really liked, but not exactly like it. But I think my main question for The Boys season 3 is, can it do what The Boys has been lacking in my opinion so far, which is why I talked a little bit in our May with Everything All Everywhere All at Once. It can offer a very interesting critique, but can it build more on that? And instead of just taking pot shots of stuff, can it give us an interesting solution on how to maybe make it better? And I actually think what made season 3 better for me is that it did actually kind of start to answer those questions and explore a little bit wider into some more, I guess, less explored territory of American culture than the previous 2 seasons, which I guess sometimes it feels a little blunt or a bit like they're talking about stuff that everybody else has talked about and satirizing it in a funny way, but I want something a bit more unique here. And I think The Boys season 3, and actually season 2 did do that a little bit. I think a good example, and I don't want to say it's like, for example, like the whole kind of like girl power thing in season 2 when they're beating up Nazi lady.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't nothing to do with them being women, like absolutely nothing. But that scene just looked kind of
true.
Like,
but I thought that to me that just added to the hilarity of it. I thought it was so like, to me, I was laughing and I was like, yeah, beat her up, because it's like there's such a meta thing where like before they're trying to like they're on this TV and like together women can do it, and kind of like to make fun of like corporations buying into the whole woke will get broke kind of mentality of that we.
In business ethics, some people would, I'm forgetting his name, Milton Friedman wrote that, for shareholders, doing the moral thing to keep businesses moral is like a conservative business ethicist. It's like, you have to appease your shareholders. So what keep business moral is by appealing to the masses' moral opinion and consensus. So he kind of talks about that, and that's why he's criticizing, because it's completely vapid and voidless.
Anyway, I don't know why I went on that tangent. Just flexing my A-level philosophy on you guys.
Let's do this thing.
But what it does really well, it's like man, and then it does that exact moment, and you're feeling girl power in a way, and then they call you out at the end of it for feeling almost the same thing. But like, anyway, it's like that's about. But the thing is, you've had those scenes in Marvel where literally they take the camera and pan around all the ladies and like. And you definitely feel like, okay, they definitely want the girl power, and then they do the same thing here, but it's like better.
The Boys does such a better job of like women characters.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so much more relatable because they're not like this complete stoic like. I mean, and I think that's an issue I have with a lot of male protagonists as well. Like, personally, I don't want to take him onto a giant tangent, but a character like Don Draper, I really don't like because he's just.
This is Mad Men, by the way.
It's like. Those aren't male characters that, at least I think, I'm sure there are some people who look up to them and think, okay, that's kind of who I want to be, and that's bad. That I think the show does a good job of trying to educate the viewer. But that's not what we should now be trying to like emulate with our female characters or like female leads. And I mean, there have been female leads in plenty of films, like Ripley from Alien.
That's a classic example. Yeah.
I think it did I loved the power that Huey and what's his mate called?
Oh, Carl Urban.
No, the guy who's always like, you couldn't.
Like Carl Urban, the guy who plays.
The guy who plays him. But no, what's his?
What the Brick? No.
Come on, guys.
Oh my god.
Come on.
Chucky? Not Chucky.
No.
Huey. No,
Huey's the fucker.
What the fuck is his name?
Butcher.
Oh!
Dun, 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 you just beat Melania's second part on your own.
Anyway, secondary character.
Anyway, so like those two, I love when they act. Well, when like Butcher gets his powers and then takes on the American guy.
Oh, that was such a sick.
Yeah, and then he like laser beams him, and then he actually feels like, okay, so this is what it's like to be the superheroes, and it's horrible, but he needs to do it, because there's such a cool comparison between Huey and Butcher, because Huey's obviously respecting the fact that they shouldn't keep doing this, But Butcher's just like, I need the job done.
And Butcher is a reflection of Homelander, who's his antagonist.
Yeah, he's
and Huey's, he's not quite, but he is more a reflection of A-Train, who is his antagonist.
Exactly. But Huey's getting tempted, and I think what I really like about Huey is his arc at the end. So you're like, dude, he's going to do the teleporting thing.
Exactly.
He's going to do so. It's such an annoying Huey thing where he's going to be like, he's a bit sniveling and he's always going to make mistakes and they have to apologize. But at the end, instead of becoming the limelight himself, he goes and powers up his girlfriend, and he uses himself usefully in a way not to make everybody better and to power up Starlight. And I thought like that metaphor of him literally powering her up, like through the lights and stuff, was like really nice. Just like him being like, hey, it's okay that we can have a really cool male character that is not the forefront strong guy in the relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And because you have so many super strong men in the show, it's just a really nice rounding of the male cast, and Huey being way more respectable, because I found him quite sniveling, a bit annoying, and like very, you feel for him a lot, but everything so the reason why I say it's not my type of show, because I just get so anxious, like, Huey, why are you so stupid? Stop doing it. Like in my situation, I'm just like, cut your losses, keep chill, like, don't I wouldn't go into this situation of trying to go revenge in the first place, but then we wouldn't have a TV show and all this stuff.
Yeah, but
to me, that's just like something like my anxiety for him, and I want Huey to be better, and he was better, and that's why I was really happy.
Yeah, no, I've also thought Starlight was a great character throughout the entire show. I really like that, actually. I'm not usually a big fan of like incorporating actual real life media into your show, such as like, you know, I'm playing Among Us, lol. Among Us.
Oh yeah.
But you know, she had this part where she was Instagramming like the facts that Herogasm, which was an absolutely incredible episode, which I thought I would hate because I was like, sex is boring, but I fucking loved everything.
I'm taking that because sex is boring.
But they took that episode and like okay, if I'm gonna tell you like, oh yeah, it's like an orgy with superheroes. It's like, oh god, it's just gonna be so focused on the sex, but it wasn't. Like the sex was like, okay, yeah, sure, the episode has like, okay, the guy with the enormously long penis, but then it's got like all these different themes around like, I mean, that's the showdown as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the climax of the show, or that season anyway, where you have Soldier Boy. No, he's Soldier Man. He's Soldier Man.
I think he's literally called Soldier Boy.
Awesome when you see, what's his face, punch A-Train, because he's like so angry. He just wants to punch him to show him that he's got power. And it hurts A-Train, and A-Train's like, what the fuck? But I also just love the fight scene between Homelander and all three of them. Because you're like...
Okay, we have to talk about it. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's just like, it's so awesome to see that like Homelander's always been incredibly strong, and he's never been able to be broken down because no one can offend him. And then all of a sudden, these three have pinned him down into a point where he almost died. Yeah. And it's just like, he comes back home and he's just shattered.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm saying this. I've got to get it off my chest. Homelander is the best villain in any TV show, like,
yeah,
in my opinion, like, or game, like, I think he is that good a villain.
He's so good.
I think there's a real trend in a way to like make every single villain not a villain by the end, or like to add more, and it's good. Like, let's go back to a goated series, best series of all time. We all love it, The Wire. Like, there isn't a villain in The Wire, but there are loads of people with different perspectives on how to do it. Homelander is the villain. He still has a perspective to him, but he's still clearly the bad guy that fills you with this sense of dread every single time he's on screen. He's perfectly acted. He's like, creates this menacing sense that you're just like full of dread, like every single time. Like, what is he going to do? I don't know what he's going to do, and it's phenomenal.
And then somehow you still find yourself not sympathizing necessarily, but you
feel bad for him at some point.
Like, he's obviously incredibly isolated, and the show does such an incredible job of portraying that by, in the first season, he's always talking about how, who's the ninja guy?
Dark Nightshade or whatever, right?
Rogue. His name is Rogue. Something Rogue, wasn't it?
Is it? Unfortunately, we watched it quite a while ago, so I can't recall the names correctly, but like, he's like really the only one he can trust within that organization. Okay, so I know I'm jumping from conversation to conversation quite a bit, but the relationship between Homelander and his son and Butcher and his son is so well balanced in the show.
Really, really
I mean, honestly, like, it's such a good TV show, but the weird thing is, it's like, it's so edgy, it's so cheesy. It kind of like taps into all the things that I typically wouldn't like.
Your first scene of season 1 is some guy walking into some other guy's penis. That's the first.
That's not season 1. That's season.
Season 3. I meant season 3.
Yeah.
Season 3.
First
First episode,
episode.
some guy walking to some guy's penis. It's quite funny because he sneezes and he explodes the other guy.
It's a whole Ant-Man going up Thanos' butt meme.
Yeah.
That's
Wait,
what
what's
it is.
that?
Well,
Do you not hear about like, how does the Avengers beat? There's a massive meme in Infinity War where it's like, how do we beat Thanos? Well, just put Ant-Man up his butt and go big, and it explodes him or whatever, right? So
Do you reckon they were actually playing into that?
I think almost certainly, but yeah, and I think, like every single character seems to add like for example, Frenchie and
Kimiko, yeah.
There's such so Kimiko is acted phenomenally. The fact that she barely speaks, and then like
they have this whole dance scene, bit.
Yeah, they have the whole
where they fall in love. Oh, mate.
Frenchie is so, but then also Mother's Milk. The fact he's called Mother's Milk, you're like MM, you're like such a stupid name. But the thing, second season, I actually thought his stuff was really good as well. They have two basically characters that bring in an interesting Black American perspective into, and I think lots of shows you can't go far without critiquing America, without basically talking about African Americans and their experience over history, right? But it's interesting to see two different, like how this man is like so vengeful, but he's really trying to be there for his daughter, but his family has got such PTSD towards.
He's definitely he's the most level-headed out of the people in the crew.
But his not necessarily rival. I mean, his rival was Soulja Boy, but like in terms of the person he was against was the stepdad loves Homelander. Right? That's such a contrast between those two.
God, oh my god, the show is so good. It's actually so good.
But the thing is, with Mother's Milk, like I really liked him because he's keeping things under control. But then you can feel like he's so I'm a really big fan of self-aware characters, and he's really battling that. And he knows if he lets it go, and he lets it go, his anger out, and then he actually really hates it for that. But then compare that to A-Train, who kind of talks about. I mean, do you remember the Pepsi advert that got memed ages ago? Yeah. They did that meme where like he like puts on his African colors and stuff like that. It's like you get two like interesting perspectives. That one that may be a bit more broad, but then one that's really personal and like. It's a great balance.
Oh yeah, I think it's one of the best meta narratives we've had in a while.
I mean, I don't want to be the person who necessarily brings bad news. The only thing that was incredibly like cheesy and not good at film was like the CGI. The fight scenes were not like.
I think that's like one of the things. If you're going to have a superhero show, unfortunately, you're always going to always be a little bit like leveled towards
Marvel,
which has like incredible CGI. They have like at least good 1,000 people working behind that. While these people, this is a smaller company, but you can so tell when you're like watching.
For example, like despite the Herogasm fight scene being really really good, I still felt like they're like seeing what Homeland has done before. Like the power scaling just didn't feel quite right for it. Like it felt like. These were just super strong men rather than literally a guy that can like
laser beam someone.
So there's a little bit of like, but once you get like the final fight similar to that as well. And I actually want to talk, but like once you get around that kind of like weird nagging voice in your head, like the power scaling is not correct, which fair enough, like that's a fair critique to make. But being in that moment of like, hey, I'm not here for the fights. I'm for the characters and those moments. And I mean, I think it's really good. And before we continue on, I wanted to talk a bit more about the contrast to the man who got radicalized by Mother's Milk villain, the white dad, basically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very, very clear, and I mean, it's a very political show that like Homelander is crossing over into that kind of Trump-ish territory, alt-right territory, and you see a very normal dad who's just like, hey, I'm a fan of this guy, he's on TV, like he's chill, kind of like Trump. He was on like the American's Apprentice and all this stuff, and it's like. But yeah, and you see, and okay, not to get too personal, and like I don't have anybody that like radicalized, but you do like I've got family in America, and you definitely do see like just normal, average, everyday people get pushed to a certain political position, which I don't want to necessarily like demonize them and say like they're the worst people to live on earth or anything like that, right? Mm-hmm. But because they are still human, and I do like that perspective. But you do see him at the end being like, you see Homelander just kill a dude, right? And then they're like, and then it ends on the best scene where like I think the kid's name's Ryan.
Ryan.
And they just has a slight little smile, and it's so good.
I mean, that kid, like, I don't think. No offense to his act, like, I mean, he wasn't the best acted character for certain, like, but I think there was one scene which was fucking hilarious. We laughed for a good while at, where it was like he like fell off a roof or something like that.
Oh my word, it was so funny. Yeah.
And then like he falls on the ground and goes like ooh, something like that. But anyway,
it's like the Roblox sound.
The most comical relief, and it was so funny in Herogasm, I couldn't stop laughing, was when the Deep like took the octopus in the bag of water and ran into the car. It was like, don't worry, baby.
The Deep is hilarious. I love it.
But I don't treat him with like, so he's like perhaps a bit more of an environmental aspect to the show, but like I still can't take like the show just takes the piss. Like
I do think that, like season 2, a little bit of an issue is they focus too much on the Deep. If you have the Deep in there, you can't have him too much, but you need a little bit of background.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought actually A-Train's arc in this was really like when he takes the police and he starts skinning him along the road. I thought that was like okay, A-Train, I'm rooting for you, and then he backstabs him at the end again. Right?
Well, basically
that hurt me. I was like, come on, A-Train, you got this, man. And they just
basically he wants to help the black community, right? Gets the guy who basically who keeps violating and wants him to apologize. He does, but then he accuses everyone, and then everyone gets angry at A-Train. A-Train then basically kills him.
Yeah.
Which is not what his brother wanted.
No.
Yeah.
Because his brother got angry, and then he took his heart. So essentially, he can run really fast now again. But then he comes back to his brother, and his brother's like, "I don't want anything to do with you." And that's like a really
that is so tragic, but it's
also,
really good.
It's also like because A-Train's not running. Homelander is like, "What's the point of you? You're just fat, and like you're pointless." And it's just like it hits hard because it's like obviously he can't run because he's running out. He took so many drugs to amplify it.
What about the bit where Homelander sucks his own dick?
How did he do that?
He doesn't. He gets like, you know that guy in season 1. I think this is season 2. Admittedly, it's not season 3.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was
that is just like it's so incredibly meta. It's so fucking good. I love. Honestly, Boys season 4, I'm watching that immediately. Like, and to be honest with you, like you had like recommended season 1 to us, and we watched it and we were like, yeah, it's good. And then we didn't watch season 2. And then you were like, oh, and I don't know who suggested season 3 for this.
Probably me, I think. I was trying to dig up.
And so then we were like, okay, we'll watch season 2. Season 2, in my opinion, definitely was a little bit.
That's what I heard from everybody. It was a little bit weaker.
I mean, I think it just. I mean, like the whole Nazi thing was a little bit like.
It's a bit like Heimlich's girlfriend or something stupid
like
that.
Heimlich's wife, I think.
I don't know. It was pretty. It was like a bit too silly, you know, and like.
But I mean, there were really good scenes. Like I found myself laughing when they were getting off on the fact that he was like grabbing someone's head and like crushing it.
Oh yeah,
slightly, and they were like getting off on it. It was funny. It's like it's so ridiculous and so disgusting that some people would find.
It's so weird because you and I would hate that shit usually.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
We would hate that shit, but then it just does such.
I think because the show. So what I'll say here is that I think we have some other shows on here that would also maybe classify this. The show is very edgy, and I think what sometimes makes edgy annoying, and this is particularly, it's not necessarily the aesthetic of it, but it's like, I mean, I couldn't find a great definition of a line, so maybe this is a very personal definition, but edgy, to be edgy in some way, you have to be trying to goad a reaction from the audience with what you're doing. So in some ways, being edgy is kind of similar to like kicking a dog or killing a dog just to make everybody feel bad because it's like, a dog. That's that kind of edgy where you're like, we're doing this for the sake of just a reaction, but the boys does it for the sake of reaction, but also 10 other reasons which you can delve into.
Oh, absolutely. The subtlety is the key.
Yeah.
And where the boys is not subtle is in its like edginess, but when you go that extra layer beneath that, I think the subtlety is actually like it's incredible.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like the best series I've watched this year. Like,
interesting. I think with the boys, I think in the first few seasons, it didn't feel like to me it quite establish enough of a character base for those subtleties to build up for me to give it that much credit.
Yeah, that's true.
In a way, and then it kind of comes into it's like now the subtleties are kicking in. We're seeing the small bits of these arcs, and so yeah, it's a critique on America. It's interesting in some parts, but also very on the nose in others, and just I'm like eye rolling because it's like same old.
I don't think it does the best job of handling religious.
Like, I don't think it does.
Well, I mean, it's a big. I mean, it's one of those
perhaps
things
that's just for us because we've only been exposed to like the UK like church and religion like that. It just is.
It's so over the top, in my opinion. Like it's kind of like, of course, this probably does happen, but
boys are really good.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Anyway, I'm gonna jump. I've had enough.
Was that a preamble for 10 minutes?
Yeah, I've had enough of you guys. I've had enough of you old women talking.
Old woman.
Oh, what's the next one?
It's Overlord.
Overlord. Okay, this is August. Jesus, what time is it? Fuck me. This is complete garbage shite. Anyway,
it's your turn, man.
It's your turn.
Yeah, I thought you got to do that.
Oh no, I did that at the beginning. It just has to sync up.
Oh right, cool.
I mean, I wouldn't want to go through 10 minutes of audio.
Alright, so we watched Overlord Season 4 in August. And yes, if you don't know what Overlord is, it's basically an isekai. Isekai is essentially when
Isekai.
I'm going to start over again. We watched Overlord in August, which was an isekai.
No, isekai!
Okay, it's we watched Overlord in August. You motherfucking bitch. We watched Overlord in August, which is an isekai.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it.
Okay,
Okay, anyway, so essentially, if you haven't seen Overlord, we watched season 4 of it, and it's about someone who goes into a world and it's basically VR, like a video game, and he actually stays in it even after it gets shut down, and he's super, super, super powerful, and he's all these super powerful NPCs with him. That's essentially the main plot.
He's also the villain, I guess.
Is he a villain though?
This season he was the villain, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, which I think, once again, I think my overall opinion on it was it's very Overlord. Like the start of the season, you're like, and then towards the end, you're like,
Yeah, kill those fucking prince people, kill them all.
and you're like, yeah, this is hype. He's killing everyone you hate, and that's basically it. For me, I mean, like, it's got. Obviously, this animation is so much worse than like most studios
You
out
just
there.
love more people in armor so they don't have to animate mouths moving.
Yeah.
It's like, it just becomes
I think
grossly
Overlord's
obvious.
animation is maybe just a little bit below the standard, but we normally only watch the really, really good
That is-
stuff.
okay,
So
okay.
Absolutely.
So I would say that, but if you're a big Overlord fan, which I don't know why you'd be watching this, but if you are, I know there's lots of reasons for people to really, really get into the nitty-gritty of these seasons with lots of light novels and these types of stuff. The world building has a lot of depth to it, so you can do all the... I know, like, they've got all like the characters' powers and all their numbers and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's not a show that we take super seriously, and we just in our inner fibers and beings, we love and enjoy because it makes us laugh because we think it's stupid, but also because we get really hyped by it as well. So we're the dude bros here, where we just we're not super big brain about it.
You're not gonna find very
in-depth albedo analysis or whatever.
Albedo analysis why she can't ride her horse. Well, okay, let's go into that. It's like, oh, Ainz doesn't know everything that turns up, because he doesn't, and that's the funny part. Like, he went to the Colosseum and he was like, ha ha ha, and then the guy was like, do you want to turn our village, like our whole city into a... And that's funny, it's hilarious, because he doesn't know, but then Demonu does...
Demiurge, yeah.
Yeah, he just knows everything.
Demiurge is a fun character.
Yeah, the thing is, it's fun, it's so much fun, but is it something I want to actually dig my teeth into? No, not at all. I'm here for the entertainment purely.
Yeah, so one of the good entertaining parts is that Ainz only fails upwards. He somehow is super powerful, and he's got all these minions around him that just assume, because of his cult of personality, he's like a dictator. Everybody just assumes he's the greatest guy ever, and he just has to play along with their ideas of him, and he just lets them run everything, and that's kind of what he does. So with that Colosseum, I can't remember, like, what were you saying about, like...
So basically...
He has a Colosseum fight, and...
No, the guy who hosts it, who owns that kingdom, I can't remember the name.
Gold guy, whatever.
He assumes a much more subtle plan from Ainz will go.
Oh yeah.
Like in that because basically he's already having these talks with these the theocracy. Yeah. Sorry, you take it.
Well, he has these talks with the theocracy, and he's like, oh my word, this guy's dangerous, this guy's dangerous, this guy's dangerous. And anyway, he doesn't expect Ainz to turn up in the arena. The only reason Ainz is turning up is because he was like, lol, I'm going to try to fight someone who's strong. Right? And that's what's funny. That's what's so funny about it, because Ainz is not taking it seriously. And, you as the viewer is just like, I'm here for fun. I'm sure there are some people out there who are not just gouging on Albedo's titties, but are actually trying to intake some of the sustenance from the show. But I'm afraid I think it's so far gone for me that it's just like, it's pure entertainment. And what I said before, I'm still going to stick to it. It's like the first 6 episodes are build up, and the last 6 are like so much fun to just watch him like fucking kill everyone. Like, his gang killing everyone is just so
I will say, and I hate to say it, but like that bit where the who was it? It was like the guy who's like he's making love with all these ladies or something like that.
Oh, the mech guy.
The mech guy, and he like fucks up. He fucks up Einzugol, is what you think.
Yeah.
What I thought, in fairness, I got played.
I think I got played too, and then I read the Reddit comments, and they're like, "Oh, it makes so much sense." And they explained, I was like, "Oh, dude, I could have actually picked that up. It's not some big brain." There was actually some interesting.
Oh no, Pandora is actually, in my opinion, such.
I love his voice actor so much.
I mean, because I'm slightly bigger brain than both of you, I realized it was Pandora's actor. But still, I mean,
did you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how good?
I would say the only issue with this season is like almost the perfect continuation. So if you watch season 3 into season 4, it would go really well. But we've had like 3 years since the last one, so I forgot loads of the names and stuff like that. And I think this is with the twist at the end, like when Climb is. Is that the twist you're talking about? When the girl wants to become a vampire with Climb. So, I actually did look into this afterwards because I was confused too, and now I can't remember. So I'm sorry, everybody.
Well, it's essentially
go somewhere else with a fucking explanation.
Get the fuck out of here! Allow the big boss to take it. Anyway, so essentially, what happens is whoever looks after Cloud, I don't even know her name, but
Carsten's like, I don't go deep into it.
I don't go deep into it. It's
because he's researching all the Rule 34.
Yeah, I'm like, once I find out the Rules 34, I'm like, well, God, what else is there?
This sex is meaningless without knowing the law behind that.
The Overlord slippers stay on during sex. Anyway, I think
what are you now, the Overlord slippers?
I don't know, man. I don't even know. Anyway, so I think the basic premise of the twist is that you don't expect her to be so clever. I mean, I think it's hinted towards that she's very clever.
I thought she was the mastermind the whole time.
Yeah.
She is.
That's what I gauged. Like,
I was like, what is she trying to do? I don't know, but she's some mastermind.
Yeah, but so the idea was she planned it all with Albedo to do like everything. So she technically outsmarted Einzone Ghoul, but she's not going against them because she realizes she can't beat them. So she just joins them.
Okay.
And so then she becomes immortal and makes Climb immortal.
Okay. One actually peak literature, I don't know, I thought was a really, really good moment was the brother and his meeting with Einzel Ghoul. Because he's like, because one of the gimmicks of this, I don't want to say gimmicks, but one of the tropes in that's really funny and cathartic is like everybody underestimates Einzel Ghoul and then he absolutely destroys them. But this guy's like, I can't beat you. And he's actually trying to negotiate, and Einzel Ghoul almost agrees to not killing everybody with him. And then he comes back, and then all his men kill him. And then Einzel Ghoul, and they say, don't worry, we've killed our leader for you. And Einz, you can feel like actual character, like the depression where he's just like, I'm going to slaughter all of you because I actually liked this guy, and why did you do that?
It's so satisfying because Mara like walks away and then he grabs her hand and his hand, and it's like, you give these people the most torturous death possible. And that's
so before he's going to be really quick, but now
it's
destructive. But then also, this is another one with the OP, like shows all these people, and then it's like, so there's one like where like this lady in like this lance is like fighting people, and then we're just like, okay, so when are they going to turn up? And they turn up for like one scene, and like literally one of them is a priest.
We probably should put some context of this. So we went to the pub for a bit.
True, I didn't realize we talked to this.
As you were saying, so sort of like we were talking quite a bit about what the OPs look like and like the intros to animes, and typically a lot of the things that feature within those don't actually feature within the span of the show themselves.
But anyway, in Overlord, these people turn up, and then they're only in it for like half an episode just to kind of hype up the mech anime guy. And then I remember it has like the most like typical like anime like waifu scene where this lady is a priestess, and they're like, wow, the priestess shouldn't be talking like this, and she's like, oh, I really want to have sex with the young men, and like she's a pedophile.
It's like they're all
and like, oh, you're so weird for liking little boys, aren't you a priestess? You want to be holy? And it was like, oh my word, it's such a small thing.
I mean, they all get kind of anyway. I would say watch Overlord if you're into that sort of like huge power creep from the potentially bad / good guys. I would say that's a huge amount.
There are a few genuine moments of nice heart in there, but like if you find the funny in it, I mean, I think this season, how does it compare to the other season? I think I definitely probably enjoy this season.
I preferred
overall.
it more to third. I think
And
in my
definitely the
heart,
second.
the first season.
The first season is
still the
I
best.
think the first season's animation is also the best. So
Yeah.
it helps promote.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Now,
And as you'd already specified, it's like it's kind of like you're in it very much for this underestimation of Ainzu Go or this overestimation of Ainzu Go. Like they play very much into those two dynamics, and when the show comes to a halt and you're talking about,
Guild masters,
the guild masters, the world building, like that to me isn't very
Slow down a
appealing.
little bit.
It's just more appealing to watch.
but it's also like, I think it's setting up a stuff for the future, and like it's trying to give a little bit of logic to like how is Irons will go. I mean,
100%. Unfortunately, it's not deep enough for me to care about.
And you're like,
and I think
sure.
OPM does a better job at that.
Yeah,
true.
Let's move on though.
It's my turn, right?
It's my turn.
Oh, it's last turn. Yes.
I think your
Rings
last one will be
Power, September. So September was a really interesting month. It's. I think when I think back to my days of being in school, which is a while ago now, it's kind of like when you come back to school. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like a bit of a sorrow month,
Interesting. Like kind of like melancholic, kind of bit like sobering.
Yeah. And I think sobering is the right term I would use to describe Rings of Power, because it didn't bother, in my opinion, to properly attempt to engage with God, that's embarrassing. I've forgotten his name.
Tolkien?
J.R. Tolkien's work, and instead wanted to push very much a narrative of his own, which, I mean, in and of itself, I tried to disengage myself from, because, okay, you don't need to stay truly loyal to the original works. I don't have a great affiliation with the original works. I very much enjoyed the Lord of the Rings films by Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson? Yeah, it's Peter Jackson.
Not Percy Jackson. Wrong guy. Percy!
Yeah, I would come out and say it's probably one of the weakest pieces of media I've watched for a very long time. I think, a show... I don't care if a show is necessarily bad, but it's entertaining. I can forgive it, such as, for example, as Overlord. It was entertaining. I might not really like it as a whole thing, but it was really fun to watch. But I just think this show was boring. And I think once you're sitting there and you realise, wait a second, I'm watching a show here, then I think you've lost your audience.
Okay.
And for me, that happened very early on. I think it was around about the time where she jumped off the boat.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not going to survive this. You're going to die. Like, the only way you survive this is if some plot armor comes around. Mm-hmm. And that was a massive shame for me, because I was like, actually, you know what, at the start, I like Galadriel. And even if people were shitting on her, and even if people call me an idiot for not realizing that Halbrand is Sauron at the start, because a lot of people did think, that's immediately Sauron. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't smart enough to go, that's Sauron.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, yeah, you got to realize that. I just thought towards like the second episode, or the third episode, the fourth episode, we're still in fucking like that royal place. What was it called?
We're in big setup mode.
Numenor.
Numenor.
And it's Numenor, and just the action scenes. The problem is you watch Lord of the Rings again, and then you go, God, how have they turned to this?
Yeah, I mean, and Lord of the Rings, as a film, like the trilogy costed less than.
Yeah, it's the most expensive. It's the most expensive show ever made.
It's a show, not film.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, actually. I don't want to say this with complete conviction, but I'm pretty certain that the trilogies costed less than...
Well, they said they spent over almost $1 billion.
No, it was $1 billion
on this
show.
Now, take Endgame. Endgame's budget was probably about $350 million, so a third of that. And Endgame's one of the most expensive movies ever made.
Yeah.
Avatar 2 may be more expensive. I mean, I know they did a lot, but yeah, either way. And I think in some respects, I thought the score was fantastic. I thought the visuals and the CGI and lots of that for a TV show was, I mean, the money clearly was well spent.
No,
I just felt like...
I think it was, but it was too focused on those particular aspects. The moments where you're in the not the vault necessarily, but in the dwarven area, like those were fantastic. Like, as you say, the visuals were great.
They were the standout, of course. Yeah.
But why couldn't we have spent more money on a fucking better ride? like a screenwriting.
And also, I personally don't think the actors did a very good job. Personally, for me.
Yeah, I think the issue with I made a video on this which I thought which actually kind of popped off a little bit, which was really spur of the moment. But I feel like with lots of Rings of Power, it felt vapid. It felt a bit frivolous. It feels like it's presenting something. And in a way, I do think when you have, like, when I think of Lord of the Rings, I'm thinking what is Tolkien trying to do? He's trying to create almost like a mythology of the British Isles, trying to bring it back before the Anglo-Saxons and stuff like that.
It's the Arthurian legends.
Yeah, and it's that kind of vibe, and you want that wonder, like, as we kind of talked before, the Green Knight and the Norsemen have that cinematography. You have this kind of wonder of this kind of slow, and so it doesn't have to be super fast-paced, and having the visuals right, it's just like, when you think about Numenor, it's this wonderful, great, fantastic, lovely, beautiful city, and yet I feel there's no substance to it because I don't know the people that live there. I love to see more characters. Let's not talk about the why again. Let's take Arcane. You're spent in, like, for the whole season, you're spent in 2 cities which are basically part of the same one, and you're able to kind of, like, even just small scenes of, like, different characters you only talk to once. But I feel like with that, like, lots of the people that you talk to, like, their individual designs weren't interesting, or, like, you have, like, the general's son, which is kind of going through his arc, but he has his friends. It's just like, it felt like it was setting up the whole entire season, and then nothing happened. I think that's the best.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think it was, like, even, in my opinion, I don't think it was even qualifying to being setting up. Like, to me, the pacing was so poor. You would, like, each episode being an hour was a crime in and of itself, because the episode covered such little ground. And I don't think, to any effect, they managed to do, like, if we're coming back to this conversation about setting a seed within your audience and sort of trying to cultivate that, they did such a shit job. When you think about the Half-Foots, who are the Hobbits, basically, or like the predecessors to the Hobbits, I mean, like, they find these, I can't remember, they find, like, tracks, I think, for, like, the creatures. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, that's interesting. Hopefully that's not going to appear for a bit. And then, that gives you some time to think about, like, or form your own ideas about what those creatures, like, how powerful they're going to be. And then you see them, like in 10 minutes.
That's when I think it comes into which is weird because Western media usually, I mean, it can sometimes do it, I'm sure. That's like the sort of anime thing, where it's kind of like, here's a thing, okay, cool. 5 seconds later, here it is again.
Yeah, his question, his answer.
Yeah. And that's just so shit. And, like, fucking hell, that show was so bad, man. Let's remember the best scene from the show. I mean, whoever was the fighting cinematographer should be fired immediately. They were awful at their job because the fights were fucking horrendous.
I mean, I don't think we could have stopped. Like, I mean, it was more of a comedy when they were like, let's leave the keep and go to the village. And it's just like, how in a strategic point of view of battle, does that make any sense? Like, I mean, I don't want to do this because it's beating a dead horse, because, like, everyone, you could find 1,000, maybe 1 million videos on, like, how stupid that the combat is, because it's just like how obscene it would be to leave a fort, which is one way into it, that's it. That's all there is.
And I think the issue is that you're coming off of a franchise which is Lord of the Rings,
and it did such a great job.
Yeah, and it has, and this is, your expectations are set very high because you're like, this is Lord of the Rings. The Tolkien estate has signed off on this. We assume that it's hopefully in safe hands, but is it also just kind of, is it? But then it feels like Amazon Prime's just trying to buy a big IP to get people to come over to Amazon Prime and get invested in their big long series, because Apple movies making moves, Netflix is trying to make moves, Disney, everybody's trying to get these IPs underneath their belt, and then it feels like
they took such a weird route on it. Like,
but
I have absolutely no issue with a lot of like Galadriel being the main character of the series. I have no qualms with, as Carson stated, like, she's a really cool character in the Peter Jackson movies. And initially, I actually thought she was really cool. I didn't have any issues with her being like, you know, when she killed the troll, the troll which took like 4 people to kill in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, I was just kind of like, oh, Galadriel is a badass.
Yeah, she could do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's her character. Like, that's absolutely fine. It's just more so when she's like, the characters around her don't feel natural, and they react to her like there's one scene where she just where Galadriel is taking on the people like in Numenor and like trying to train them, and I mean. Oh, come on, like, what the fuck? You can't, like, be the old sensei and say, like, what you got to do is, like, thrust and gut. It's like, I mean, come on, what the fuck? That's, like...
That's how to fight 101.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's indicative. It's like, I think it felt like the writers thought we were stupid.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the main issue. It's like...
one thing that pissed me off is, like, they were like, oh, female dwarves. Oh, that's so cool. And I'm like, where's your beards?
No, but that's
No, like, that triggers me. That triggers me because I'm like, they speak about their beards.
I actually thought if I had to say the best storyline in Rings of Power was hands down the dwarves. I can't remember the elf character. What's his name?
Durin.
Durin? No, Durin is the dwarf.
No,
the elf. Sorry,
Elrond.
Elrond. The guy from the movie.
I thought that was the best storyline going on throughout the show, and I thought Durin's actor was actually really good. Yeah,
give me your meat and give me it raw.
Yeah,
but I think that's also because they actually started to trust the audience a little bit with like, hey, you can. These guys are friends. They can have a nuanced conversation, and they're kind of talking. Like at the end of this, the first or second episode, did they release 2 episodes together? I can't remember.
They did.
So at the end of the second episode, they're having discussion of the table, and you're like, okay, they're actually kind of there's a conversation going over this normal conversation, which is pretty standard in most writing things, but just every other conversation just didn't have that kind of feeling.
The fluency, the naturalness to it.
The only thing I think I had to say is that Mithril is just a bunch of bullshit. They should have never explained Mithril. Mithril should have been a thing. That wasn't the ending of war, because I'm almost
positive... What was it, a Balrog?
Yeah, a Balrog and an elven warrior fought on a tree, and it sent the power down the tree into the roots that went into the mines and then broke off.
I feel like if you're trying to explain much of the power, like the power system behind all the rings, you're not going to be doing very well, because it's a very mystical...
Yeah, and as you say, like, I think that level of mystery shouldn't really be, like, unturned. Like, it should just be something that... This is something for you to explore as like an audience, like make your own theories about.
And we've written this well enough where it's not so much about the literal and plot relevance of this, like the lore behind it, but more of the thematic, like the ring. It's a ring that turns you invisible. But if you're thinking about what Tolkien is talking about in the themes of his writing, the ring, what does it symbolize? You can talk endlessly about what that means as like a metaphorical item, and like. Yeah, so
it's actually just a level 90 rogue.
I would like to also give some credit to some of the, like, in my opinion, Durin and Issa. I thought they were very well acted.
Yeah.
I thought the sorry.
Her name was Gloria.
Was it not Issa?
I don't know.
Well, I can't remember now.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my own fault. But
yep, it is.
Durin's wife. I thought they were both great actors, and they did a really good job of portraying sort of those dwarven characteristics that I think were common within the J.R. Tolkien and Peter Jackson films. Like, I thought they did a good job with that. And I thought that whole plot line was far more interesting and engaging than the Numenorian or I don't know what was the region called where the other guys...
The Southlands.
Yeah. That was, I was quite surprised. I thought you would have been much more defensive of Rings of Power.
Yeah, I thought you would have as well.
Well, I've got to fight against 2 people here. I was just like,
no. You should have fought against us.
No, I mean, I didn't disagree, but I didn't dislike as much. I guess I felt more ambivalent towards it than anything else.
I thought it was terrible.
Really?
I don't know if you guessed that, Jack.
All right, so for October, we had maybe one of the most hyped anime I've ever been around to witness. And that is Chainsaw Man. The manga has been taking over at least the YouTube and Reddit scene and just online scene. I mean, this is Western, of course. I don't know how. It's not like Demon Slayer is absolutely massive in Japan, so it's not like that big. But like, it's honestly taken over the internet, I think. And so finally, it's got an anime adaptation, and I mean. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think. So, it's very similar to other shows where, like, this person has to take on the power and become something they hate, or like there's like this inner kind of contrast between being a human and being something else, which is quite common in anime actually, which is quite surprising. But yeah, anyway,
it is quite common. I feel that where I would have liked to have seen more exploration is in sort of like, if you're going to use devils and demons, I'd like to see a better depth in how they kind of adapt that to religious connotations. Devils and demons are obviously a very Christian, I mean, typically, like, not always, but I feel devils and demons kind of have this idea of trying to tempt people into a kind of, you know, like, for instance, let's take probably the most obvious example in Christian theology, I would say, is like either when Jesus is going through his period of
temptations in the desert,
and I think that is a very interesting dynamic, but personally I felt could have been explored more in that, you know, and to some degree it is, because the guy with the top knot, he is seeking such, like, he's got such a desire for vengeance that he's willing to, like, go with these devils who have caused him such great grief in his past. And I think that is an interesting dynamic, but I would have loved to have seen more of that kind of a thing versus the sort of slice of life kind of aspect that was quite prevalent within the early aspects of the show. And that's sort of my main, like, that was what I kind of wanted to get off my chest with the show initially, but
interesting. So Carson, how do you feel about the show in general?
Big stuff. I have to say, the thing is, it entertained me, which is great. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing different devils. I really like the concept of, the more you fear the devil, the more stronger it gets. Obviously, chainsaws, I mean, I don't know how many people actually fear chainsaws, but chainsaws are scary, I guess. As I said, it was entertaining. I really enjoyed some of the animation. I don't actually think it was that great. I don't think it was the most amazing animation I've watched. Like, it wasn't nothing on Attack on Titan. It had some really weird scenes where they would like run through a corridor and they would grow bigger than the actual corridor itself.
And sometimes they, like, in the 3D, because they definitely had like a 3D generated area or space, that the characters weren't like, the way that they moved.
There was only one scene that I've really noticed that, but it's like they're not like, they don't feel like that. Yeah, they're like sliding along the ground.
And I can't tell whether that's like an artistic choice versus like that's just poor, recognition of like movement between spaces.
I don't know. Maybe it was just too edgy for me. Like the whole like he wants to touch tits is just like, I don't know. That's not for me.
But
like, I don't know. There's 100 YouTube videos out there going like, touching tits actually meant so much more about humanity. And it's like, yes, you're right. Yeah, I get it. He obviously, he's very immature, like myself, and he just wants to touch tits because he doesn't know what that feeling is. But like, the upbringing is so unbelievable. How can I connect with a character who was beaten the fuck out of, who his dad committed suicide, who his mum died, who had an incredible debt, who they actually had to sell his nut, which somehow made that much money. I don't know who would buy a left nut. But that sort of thing is just, I can't relate to it. I don't know how I'm supposed to relate to any of these characters. They're all fucking weirdos.
It's definitely not the most believable world, which worked as a detriment to its grounding.
However, he's awesome when he turns into a devil. Like, when he turns into the chainsaw, I'm like, oh, cool, this is some cool shit. I love that. I love what he's doing. I love the different devils, as I said before. I do think that Katana Man was just, kind of like... you get me?
No.
I think... But it's kind of unfortunately coming back to our 101 anime sort of issues is that, here's Katana Man. Like, Katana Man, it would have been so much more interesting if Katana Man...
And him grew up together and they were like...
No, but not necessarily that. But like...
Shut the fuck up.
This is something that I feel with animes in general, is that they struggle to have multiple storylines going on in tandem. And I don't know if that's because of the manga material that they're following, but having a story in tandem where you get to see Katana Man, you get to see his perspective, like perhaps even like you have a whole side of the story where he's like coming to this idea like, oh, my grandfather's died, and perhaps you spend half an episode or so focusing on his dilemmas with that particular scenario, and half the episodes dealing with Denji's dilemma of, you know, losing Bochita. I can't.
Pochita or something like that.
Yeah. And then you can finally have this finale in the season where they're fighting against one another, whereas it kind of just was like, oh, we're in this cafe all of a sudden, and, you know, the primary antagonist of season 1 reveals themselves. And I have heard that this particular arc is one of the weaker arcs in the Chainsaw Man, like, manga, and that it gets much better like later on.
I have read the manga, and while everybody was super hyped about it, I was just I really like the art style, and I actually really like the manga, his art style. I also appreciated his style and what he was trying to do, but it did not vibe with me at all. And I think
kind of like Berserk.
Kind of like Berserk in a way, yeah. But I think Berserk was better in one regard, in the cast, and you touched on this well. It's like, there's none of the characters I really care about, maybe apart from Archie. Like, maybe I like Archie, but like all of them...
Top Knot, right?
Top Knot, yeah. He's like, but all of them, more so in the manga, I actually found them less annoying in the anime. But
oh, you found them less annoying in the anime?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know. I found Power so annoying. Now all these characters, I began to like them more as I read the manga longer. But particularly for this stage in the story, I'm just like, Power, you are so annoying. I just don't like you. But then I'm like, Denji, I'm like, I know he's a flawed character. He's clearly, but then when Himino dies or whatever, and then like Top Knot is like in the bed crying, and he's like not even consoling him. I'm just like, I know that's his point, that he's immature and all that stuff, but at the same time, like, it makes sense. But there's no one I like, and maybe that's also me in general not liking all the as more dark, and like he's clearly getting manipulated.
So do you think she's the one who's sort of manipulating Denji? I mean, I
mean, it's more like, I mean, she seems nice, but like from her first line to him, is like, "You're going to be my dog." I'm just like,
yeah,
no, Denji, no, like
that's
I just
a bit
feel
tragic.
bad.
But
it is tragic.
I do really like, and this is kind of like the sub level of what Chainsaw Man, at least to me, is kind of tapping into, is this idea that, so Denji has had a really horrific upbringing, and he's trying, like, I can't, and this is, I'd agree with you, Carson, is that I can't find myself relating with the character very well, but when I'm trying to understand the character, and like perhaps like the subtext of the character is that he's trying to form a solution to the horrific upbringing that he's had, and by doing that, he's attempting to find very simple solutions in his adolescence, which would be typically within a male of his age.
Yeah,
you know,
very normal to want to touch a boob as a 16-year-old.
Exactly,
right?
And it's very interesting to see Mikima.
Yeah.
Attempt to, like, instead of, because usually you would see like a villainous character, at least in anime, in my opinion, attempt to use their sort of like their more lustrous, I don't think that's a word. They try and use their figure, or like their, you know, if they're really lustful aspects to try and draw in and manipulate a character. Yeah. But instead, she elects to use a more personal level.
Yeah.
To persuade Denji to be on her team.
I think what the anime does really well is actually use silence quite well. It's a lot of scenes that are just silence, atmospheric, taking shots of the scenery. One thing I wanted to ask you guys, did you guys feel like this was more cinematic than most of the anime?
That's something that has come up a lot on the Reddit forums that I have seen.
Oh, interesting. I think in the anime, they definitely tried to be more cinematic. Like, for example, you have like a whole scene of like Aki just getting up in the morning and like just silent, with no music, no fanfare, just going about his normal day's work and just kind of, you know, washing his clothes and whatever. And it helps hopefully establish the environment more and trust the audience more. And I feel like,
I get that, but then the issue is those kinds of scenes in cinema, in my opinion, at least with live action media, is that you see so much more nuance in the actor's ability to portray sort of their emotions in those kinds of scenes, which goes so much further than the ability. No offense to the animators. The animators, I think, did a great job, but like it just goes so much further into sort of expressing the characteristics of the character versus the animators.
Okay, interesting.
The animation.
Because I still thought here the mannerisms and were much were still much better conveyed, and you still got a lot more lively look.
Much better conveyed versus anime, or much better conveyed versus
against a lot of anime. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But so that's kind of.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's maybe as much as live action, but I wouldn't say it's a too vast chasm to compare.
Really?
If that makes sense. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would disagree, but
okay. I think this is what Chainsaw Man maybe does best. It's like in some ways it's trying to be artistic, but not in a non-pretentious way. I don't know if you got that feeling at all.
I sometimes get it, but then you get the fights where he
True.
Top Knot goes against Snake Lady, and Snake Lady's like, Lamau, here's the ghost, and then the ghost fights him, and she's going like, well, you can, and like beating the fuck out of Top Knot, and then Top Knot goes like, oh, how did I forget? If I don't do anything, if I'm not scared of ghosts, she can't see me, and I'm like, why didn't you just do that before, mate? Like, where was that before? But maybe there's enough description behind the fight to tell me it.
One thing I did like about the power system more, there was less explanation as well. They didn't. So, for example, Snake Girl's power, they don't explain it at all. But her fingernails are getting eaten every time she uses it. Now, there are times where it's like the future devil's like, my future I'll go into your eye and I'll have to explain what it is. But
one part which we were both like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like we were very much, we were like, it would be so cool if Makima was dead here when she got shot in the train, because then that would pose such a conundrum to Denji's
big
character.
status quo flip.
Yeah.
But
Carsten immediately said, and this is perhaps a downside with watching a series with someone who's so incredibly big-brained as my younger brother. But it's like, he was immediately like, nah, she's not dead. And then that immediately was just like, if she was dead, that would be so much more interesting to explore. Obviously, she was one of the most overpowered characters in her ability to sort of control matter.
Did you not think the scene was quite cool in how it was pulled off? It was almost like, like the Requiem of, Hunter x Hunter. We're gonna say something good about it. When Krollo's when they're all fighting, Krollo's the guy, the Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Ah, I did it.
There we go. I told you.
No,
Phantom
Troop, and it has the, he's conducting in front of and then you can just see this they use classical music, so it's art when they use classical music, but. It had this almost
classical music with anime. It's painful. It's painful because they're not even they shouldn't even be on the same table at the at dinner.
Man, no, we're getting the real negative Nancy here.
Classical music is just a caliber so beyond anime series, in my opinion.
Oh, fair enough.
It's they can use it, but it just feels so pretentious when they do. That's my take. I mean, I actually have a lot of good things to say about Chainsaw Man, but I wouldn't describe.
Yeah, cinematic.
No.
Interesting. But then there's also this unpretentiousness about it, where it's it's not trying to take itself too seriously.
Do you think that?
That's strange, because I thought at first it wasn't, because I was like, oh, he's trying to touch tits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there are so many different ways you could pose a human to be like, oh, I had a shit upbringing, but I don't know. That's why I really enjoyed the scene where he just starts spreading a load of shit on his toast. I was like, that's really funny, because and that's a really good scene, because I thought, you know what, that's what a lot of kids would probably be like if they were brought up in shit upbringing, so they would be like, I don't know what it's like to taste that. But then when I was like, he's going to touch tits, okay, fine, sure, we can skip this scene.
No, because I think that is quite a powerful vector for an adolescent young male
he just wanted to see power.
No, because I think I was very much oh god, here we are, we're gonna see this scene of him fondling Power's boobs, and then they put the scene of they put her with padding in, and that was very much okay, wow, okay, at least it's not playing into this idea of anime woman.
Well, I mean, did you see the
stupidly large
the other
breasts.
woman had massive fucking tits.
Himeno.
Yeah.
Himeno was a bad character.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, they were care about her, and I'm like, no, I don't really care about her. She tried to kill Denji, and I kind of like Denji.
No, but it wasn't even that. It was she pukes in his mouth, and then she has the scene where she's trying to get off with him, and he's
he's a minor. She's drunk, and she's like, oh, you're 16. Woo! ooh, like there's like this.
I don't understand how you could like a character like that and then feel sorry that she dies.
Let's put that on the opposite sexes and think about how that scene kind of plays out. Like you have like a male.
No, lots of people in the community, because I actually kind of forgot about that scene until I watched it again. But I remember a lot of people really disliking her character because she was trying to have sex with the minor. So there's no hypocrisy there.
Thank God I'm with the Reddit warriors.
But
the karma boys.
But yeah. But
without karma, I commit a seppuku.
Oh look! I don't want to. I'm not going to shit on the series because, quite frankly, I found it really thoroughly entertaining throughout the entire thing. I'm just going to say I didn't actually enjoy it that much. It's weird. It's
interesting.
It's such a weird thing because there are things in this media list that I enjoyed, but I didn't actually think in the retrospect that it was actually good. However, I think Chainsaw Man was actually good, but I just didn't enjoy it.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I'd actually say I'm probably kind of similar in that regard. One thing I get annoyed with binge watching anime, and it's understandable why they do it because you're watching TV series every single day, is when they repeat the same thing that you had at the end of the last episode before the opening, right? Now, Chainsaw Man did do this in a way that I didn't like, right? But with like the Himeno way, with like the Himeno scene, they have
and they had it from her perspective.
Yeah, exactly. See, I'm like, that's smart stuff because you get the hook in and then you play it back, and that feels, that just feels more like actually what a TV show would do. Like I don't know. To me, I thought, okay, that's actually kind of smart, and it plays the same audio.
Yeah.
And
I would agree with that.
So I actually was sad when Himeno died.
You were
because of Aki.
I was happy.
So I got frustrated. Like, this is one of those things. I get frustrated. I know this is really stupid for me to get frustrated by because this is the point of that character. But I'm like, Aki, just go private with Himeno and you'll have a happier life. Like, just do it and you'll be fine. But then he's like, dude, I'm horny for Makima, which I completely forgot. I thought he just wanted revenge, and I want revenge. So but anyway, I'm just like to me, I was sad because I was like, that's another thing Aki has lost, and he's already losing so much. Like, as soon as he pulls out the sword, I'm just like, oh, he's using this.
But one thing that I thought was awesome was, again, it's just what anime does, and it's unfortunately, like, in my experience, just kind of what anime does. Good is that it has this concept of like, the more powerful a devil, the more the feared they are, and that was so much fun. That was so much fun. Just like sit down and be like, "Oh, Carson, what do you reckon the most powerful devil was?" And we'd talk about it like, "Oh, the cancer devil, the gay devil, or the." Obviously, that's a joke.
The frogs are coming out.
Oh dear Lord.
No, but no. In all seriousness,
but like the gun devil makes sense. You're like, dude, there's so much hysteria around guns. That would make absolute sense. Like, and that will be so feared. Atomic bombs and missiles, and like those things,
and those kinds of aspects of that, like
data privacy.
It would be. I highly doubt it happens, and I kind of wouldn't want it to happen if I had watched the second season or something. But like, perhaps to weaken the power of the devil, people become more familiar and not as feared of guns or something along those lines.
Like, but everybody comes to America. Hell yeah, brother, let's go.
I ain't scared of this shit. Bring an AR-15 into class. That's an ill-taken joke.
One thing that I think it also suffered from, which I can't stand, is the screaming. I hate screaming, and that little girl who is like really broken.
Kobini?
She's actually really busted. She's always
I thought that was this is one of the one time I thought she was actually quite funny because it like plays the same scream every single time and she's got.
But like sometimes, I don't know.
I also like
Jack.
it with just
Jack, we need to go to Japan. I so want to go to Japan with you and just see you just completely weeping out on anime and like.
But I mean. Yeah, I did see a lot of people online complaining about her.
Okay, all right.
So
perhaps
thank God my opinion
but
my opinion is validated by online.
To be fair, but this is all part of the expectations. I go in, I'm like, this is going to be horrendous. I'm expecting something to bleed my ears.
Really?
And then,
because you'd read
because I heard online, and then, I mean, and I found her way more annoying in the manga as well. I'm just like, just do something.
So as someone who had read the manga first, what were you really looking for in the season? Or had you already expected,
I was looking forward to
this is where it's going to end, so I kind of already know.
I didn't really think about, it's one of those things I read quite quickly, put in the back of my mind, said it was 7 out of 10. Didn't really love
7
it.
out of 10, okay.
It was something like that. I 7 out of 10. And I was like, it wasn't good enough for me to get invested more into it, but like I know there's a sequel series coming out, and I'll probably read that when that's done. And I'd actually like to buy the books for it if I do read it. But I got so many other stuff I'd like to read and all this stuff. But
what would you give the anime?
I'd say it's 8.
8?
Yeah, just because the reason why I was actually excited to watch it.
8 out of 8 in terms of enjoyment, or 8 in terms of like trying to kind of like gauge it objectively? Like,
probably a mix of both. I'd say probably close to the 8. I still think you could definitely give it in an objective sense an 8, just because I think I really thought the animation was really, I was very impressed by it, and that's probably the main reason why I was.
Did you not find it a bit choppy sometimes? Like,
I think it only got choppy in the action, but that's not what I was interested in. Like, to me, I just really
the small, like where he's cutting the apple.
Yeah,
I was kind of like, whoa, they really went like,
yeah, like
fucking cutting an
but
apple.
But also animating 11 different EDs with different songs. Man, the amount of directing of each episode director and each scene and each animator would have, like, all of them clearly really cared to go the extra mile on every single scene. And that's what I was most excited to look at. It's like, man, this actually, the OP looks really well done.
Oh, the OP was fantastic.
Yeah,
and that kind of overhyped it a little bit for me as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe gave you a bit of a wrong impression or something. Yeah,
I think that's just an issue with OPs and anime. It's kind of like they don't give you.
We should probably just not watch the OPs before. But you should have said at the beginning of the thing. But
the best OP is Promised Neverland. That's one of the best OPs.
That's a cool one.
You guys haven't watched Overlord season 3. I'm very hungry.
What I was looking forward to was the animation, because I saw clips online. I was like, dude, I just really want to sit back, watch and experience and just marvel at the craft. And that was something I just really appreciated, and it definitely helped me enjoy the story more than when I read in the manga.
It definitely suits the themes it's going for, especially with the music as well. I mean, accompanies the action.
I mean, I just enjoy it when he just goes,
yeah,
and then I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Doesn't the Iron Golem gets angry? Yeah, it's a really weird show, because it's one show which I appreciate a lot more for being well made, and like it's a good story. I just didn't enjoy it. It's really
okay. So you did think it was a good story?
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
What did you think of the devil that Aki made a contract with?
The Future Devil?
That was a cool. Future Devil's a cool idea.
I completely forgot his lines. I thought it was a really ominous dude, and then he just kind of turned into this more jokey guy, which I really actually quite liked. But I like the whole build up, like the writing in that scene of their building up, of them walking down this alleyway, and then unlocked, and then he comes in.
I didn't really.
But it's almost like,
keep saying that.
A commentary about like how a lot of people treat their future.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't think about their future very seriously. Yeah. So he's quite a jokey character, which I thought was a really cool touch.
Interesting. Okay, that's an interesting.
We're not gonna have that. So
Why not? Just include that.
No,
include that. Just have my face speaking over a galaxy and saying that statement, and then have your voice in the background being like, interesting, and have like super high reverb.
Hey, we've already got the reverb right here, baby.
Yeah, true.
Let me just suck on my chips.
We are in a holy place. With this, for all you watching this, we have been recording since 1. It's now almost 7:30 because we've had multiple introductions. So, and multiple things of drinks.
That's not true. This has been Coke.
But I think we are really privileged
to be drinking
to
church.
No, I think we're very privileged to have us as
as a collective audience for this media, because we're so great.
No, I think we're really privileged to have and I'm sure loads of people have that, but you can't take for gratitude enough the people around you who you can share these kinds of moments and these kinds of mediums with. And this project has just been so much fun.
Yeah, it has been. Even though I played a shit game that I was forced to play. Someone else didn't play. Actually, in fact, I was the only one who... I was the only one who played it, and it was fucking shite.
I played it.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Okay, I'll admit, back in January when you said, "Oh, I'm watching, so I'm playing it," I got tilted. I got so tilted. I was like, "This guy, there's no way."
Yeah,
it's like you can get an accurate vibe from not playing the game, and I was just like, "What is this guy?"
So for November, we played Pokemon Scarlet, and Jack actually played Violet. They're very similar games. One is basically Pokemon, and let me just tell you, that is similar to the intro of Skyrim. Have you fallen off a truck? Have you woken up? Because if you haven't heard of Pokemon, you are definitely living under a rock. So anyway, Pokemon is very self-explanatory, but this one focuses very much on a sort of legendary who was also a motorbike. So if you like Harvey's motorbikes, you'll seriously like this game. But essentially, what I'm going to go off is they had multiple stories.
My God, these intros are getting so bad.
Anyway, if you had a real thing for Harvey motorbikes, or alternatively you really enjoyed the open world, this is the first kind of second Pokemon game that's now open world. And for Scarlet, it was all about the past, and for Violet, it was all about the future. So hey ho, let's go. Yeah. And I'll start off by saying, I mean, hell, it's Pokemon, and it really pisses me off that I enjoy them, but I do. It's a common thing. You really, really enjoy them when you're playing it, but then you replay the game. Because that's what we did. We immediately deleted our save file. I caught all the legendaries. I caught a load of shinies as well, and then I just deleted it.
We?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, like, what the fuck?
Anyway, okay.
I mean, like,
Anti-Klapper, Schwein.
80% of the time you were like, oh, what do you reckon I should do? My older brother who knows so much more about everything.
No, you were like, use the poison move on the Steelix. Use it. Why aren't you poison? Poison is super effective against Steel. No, there's no Steelix.
There's no Steelix in Scarlet and Violet. The closest thing you can find to it is Wormadon.
Yeah, Wormadon. You could have said. Anyway, regardless, it's Pokemon. It's kind of done the same thing it's done for ages, and this game. I mean, once again, the Pokemon designs are great. I love them. I actually thought they were. I thought they were actually better than Sword and Shield, which I thought Sword and Shield Pokemon were actually really
There's
cool.
been a real return to form for Pokemon designs.
Yeah,
I was impressed.
In my opinion, and you're going to hate me for this, Jack, but my weakest Pokedex is Schwarz und Weiß.
Really? I would say that it's Sun and Moon for me, but...
Really?
Okay, I would say...
because Sun and Moon did lack a lot of free age Pokemon.
No, not just that. I just thought something like Comfy. What the fuck are you? A cock ring? It's not that very interesting. You know?
Man, that's a very flamboyant cock ring.
Maybe say Gen 6 maybe the weakest?
Wait, X and Y?
X and Y maybe.
Are you high?
Well, maybe I'm just thinking of the starters though. Because
Pistol Shrimp.
To be fair, Chestnut is that one I love.
Chestnut looks like he's in a hospital accident. He looks like he's like...
Yeah, he looks like the underdog.com, like...
It's got Greninja.
Yeah, no,
and
Greninja's
Delphox,
cool.
which has spawned enough Rule 34 to satisfy all of us. In terms of stories, people, like... I've watched so many YouTubers play through Pokemon. I've watched so many Twitch streamers play through Pokemon, and they always skip the Team Star one because they find it boring. And everyone in the comments is like, Team Star is great. I personally disagree. I honestly think Team Star was a bit stupid. It's just like... It's so ridiculous. And it's so over the top. I didn't think any of the stories, other than maybe the Titan one, and because obviously it's about a dog. Like you're kind of gonna sucker punch anyone about a dog.
I think it's just you guys.
Were you like?
I was like,
I'm not gonna feed that fucker anything.
This Mabo Stiff deserves to die.
But like, it's also kind of stupid. Like you save the Mabo Stiff, and then he's like, "Let's fight, Mabo Stiff. Are you up for it?" And Mabo Stiff is like, what the fuck are you talking about, Arvin? I literally just died. I'm back to life. But anyway,
I mean,
away from the memes and all the jokes, I personally think Pokemon design's on point. Some of the gym battles are seriously lackluster. I mean, I think everyone will complain about it. The design of the game is horrific in terms of like, you do it in any order you want. Fantastic design choice. However, none of the Pokemon are upgraded to your level, so you might go all the way to the 6th gym, come all the way back to the 1st gym, which you don't know because the game doesn't describe to you. That's perfectly fine. And you're going like, oh, the bug lady, okay.
They went halfway, not all the way. You have to go all the way.
You have to go all the way, exactly.
So one thing I do think for a Pokemon game, it feels like it's, at least the design, This is one of those things. It's like my expectations were so exceedingly low because of all the clips online of it just being so buggy, so awfully done. I just was like, those poor Japanese devs at Game Freak that are being forced to churn out 2 different open world games in a year, and it's just and this is why like we were humming and hawing about including Pokemon this year, not because we didn't think we'd enjoy it, but it just kind of sucks that. Hey, this is also, in the first few days, one of the best selling Pokemon games of all time.
One of the best.
Everything.
It is the best selling Pokemon.
It is, yeah. And it is bewildering, and it's so sad that like these things are being bought when they are worse quality, and the people
and
who
it
are
only
making
goes to drive these extremely toxic environments in which I imagine these developers are working in. I mean, maybe these developers are just completely inept, but I don't think that. I
do not think that. No.
I think it's just a case of them being pressed so hard for time and trying to churn out so much for this Pokemon company, which is Game Freak and Nintendo owned, because they want to push the merchandise, because the merchandise actually earns them.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually quite like terrestrialization. I think it's quite a clever mechanic.
Yeah, true.
But
I played some interesting outplays for that. I'm like, dude, I know you're gonna hit me with this move, so I'm gonna change my type. So it's
You get stabbed, right? Yeah.
You gain 1.5 times, plus you also gain the 1.5 times off stab.
And because you become a singular type.
What Pokemon do you guys use? I need to know this. You had the best starter, right?
Well,
he is the best starter. Let's be real.
The crocodiles. So
Fuecoco, the second age. Yeah, but it's like sombrero. He's the coolest one.
I mean, like. So I think we also caught I love the salt Pokemon. He would look like a Minecraft Pokemon.
Oh,
it's like rocks.
Knuckle.
I love Knuckles.
That's the first stage, because I mean it's sodium chloride. What's the third age?
I can't remember. But he was just cool. We also had Orthworm, who was like he's really cool as well.
The Steel Worm.
Yeah. I liked him.
We caught a lot because we caught the dolphin and used the dolphin for a while, and that one actually requires going online.
Okay, this one is why I was molding in the chat. The dolphin.
Really?
I kept it all the way. I was like, this thing is gonna. So I had such a hard time. There was 3 Pokemon I got that eventually I was like at level 35.
Oh, was this the point when you were like, oh my god, this game is trolling me so hard?
Yeah. Because I'm like sitting there, I'm waiting for my third. This is why I found this game kind of hard because I was trying to evolve some of my Pokemon. I was going in and out of the order, and so I had the treasure chest.
Yeah, give me.
I had the dung beetle.
Oh,
and I had the dolphin.
That guy should have evolved pretty easily if you had. Oh no, because you have to have
I wasn't using auto battle. So
Mm.
I got to this point. I was just like, what am I doing to evolve them and this stuff? And so anyway, so I eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to watch a YouTube video for all these gold things. And when you got him evolved, I was like, this guy looks so stupid.
But doesn't he look like the cheese string?
Yeah, he looks like cheese string. He looks like cheese string.
But then I used him. And I was like, this guy rides a gold skateboard? Dude, I love him. And he's just
oh my god, I knew. That's so annoying. Because I was like, Jack's going to love this guy.
Yeah, I loved him. I was like, dude, I love the treasure chest. Oh, that's great. He's going to grow into a big treasure chest. And he's going to be sick. He's going to be like Cuphead, basically, right?
You love your ghost Pokemon.
Yeah,
you love... Jack,
motherfucker,
I swear to God, you're a necrophiliac.
But like, I mean, yeah, I think some of the Dung Beetle's evolution is awesome. Like, I love that. Like, the poo is what actually controls him in the end. It's like that's what their Pokemon becomes.
Oh, I see.
And it's just
and that move where he brings the Pokemon back to life.
Back to life is like awesome.
He has revive as.
And I mean,
I didn't use it in the end. I was like, I've got revives.
I mean, I also love like the dolphin Pokemon. It's like such a funny idea. Like,
no. Okay, this is why I got trolled because I'm like, okay, I've got to go online. Okay, I'm going to call up my mate from Newcastle. I know he's got a Switch. I'm in Austria, and then I'm like, you've got to pay money for Nintendo Wi-Fi. I was like, you are trolling me right now. I've spent 44 levels leveling up this dolphin that is just there for me to throw out and then heal another Pokemon before he dies. Like it was like unbelievably frustrating. I also had the only Gen 9 Pokemon rule. I didn't use any old Pokemon. But I used the Gen 7 one without realizing it, which is the big hatted psychic Pokemon that has like super busted stats.
She's like Hatena.
Flamingo. This was.
I was hoping they would evolve.
I got to the first area. I'm just like level 6 Flamingo. Yeah, sure, I'm gonna catch that. Just wipes my whole team, and it's just because it's so strong. It's like base 500 stats.
No, but that's kind of single age Pokemon in Pokemon in general. It's like they have really good stats.
Like Heracross, but like I mean, we were playing Nuzlocke of the game.
So
we were.
Because we did that to counterbalance the fact that they fucking stupidly removed battle system.
Off. I was really amazed by that.
Yeah, and you have to use the the XP. You can't.
Yeah, you can't turn
off. Honestly, I have no grievances.
Yeah, I actually think it's really good design.
I also like how you can grind like by throwing your Pokemon out again, like, and they don't die. Like you can also battle. Like you can level up quickly.
Was that really slow though? I just did.
You can just. I mean, I think you earn half the XP.
Yeah, I think having an overworld game would be good for Pokemon if the world was engaging, interesting, well animated, well designed.
I mean, at the end of the day, I give Pokemon like I love it, but unfortunately, this game has still not revived my like Emerald passion for it. Like where I'm saying the game is good.
Yeah.
Would
you say it's slower than Diamond and Pearl?
No, I wouldn't say it's slower
I'd say Diamond and Pearl is probably slower.
Diamond and Pearl is honestly slower.
So that comes on to December, which was like quite an interesting month in terms of like what we were considering to be the media piece for this month. Mm-hmm. Initially, it was Avatar: The Way of Water, I think is what it's called.
Avatar 2. So
it just didn't end up working. I think that definitely was a larger media or like a more mainstream piece than the one that we had elected to use instead, which was Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Which actually, in my opinion, so that was actually something that I watched on my own. I just elected. I was like, as someone who used to engage in stop motion myself, have a clip of my stop motion.
I was just going to ask you if you're okay with me putting on here. It got 30. It's got more views than any of my video essays ever have. So
they're all Russian bots. They use stop motion and a mixture of also CGI, obviously on a lot of their elements.
Oh, really?
I think, I believe so. I mean, the water, for instance, I don't think that's. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if that was stop motion, that would be just ridiculous.
But I feel like most of it is stop motion. Like, did you watch the documentary with it? The half an hour one afterwards, where they kind of interviewed everybody in their process around it.
No,
I did watch. You were mentioning like about you were thinking something about the quality of it. Like, what were your thoughts about it?
The quality of the stop motion was incredible. I think it was incredible. Like, I don't think I wanted to watch it again because I did watch it again with my with Carsten and my mum. I don't think I watched it necessarily again on the merit of its storytelling or necessarily dialogue, but just the visual package that it delivered, and its theming. It was so it was so visually engaging and stimulating that the second time I watched it, I had so many other things to look out for that I could pick out. And I mean, I thought it was a phenomenal piece of media.
I think actually one aspect that could be easily overlooked, because it is phenomenal to look at. Like, have you seen any of the time lapses of the behind the scenes of it? You know, the ones of Spitzatura, the monkey, going through the circus ground. There's like a great behind the scenes. It is phenomenal. Like, but I think the sound effects were really good. Man. Like, he's got the harmonium, the harpsichord. No, not harpsichord. It's like the.
It's harpsichord, isn't it?
No, harpsichord is the piano.
Yeah, harpsichord.
Oh, what the fuck is it called?
It's
harmonica.
No, it's not. No, that's that. The harpsichord.
No,
it's called the harpsichord.
Harpsichord?
I'm almost positive.
Piano. Anyway, the musical instrument that goes that like he like moved it slightly and it goes and like make like the perfect noise of like what it would be like that, and I was like, it's just. It's just small details like that. I was like, man, this, and apparently they said it took 15 years for them to create, which I think I remember that correctly from the documentary. Now it's interesting because Del Toro has done loads of other movies during that 15 years, so I'm not sure how much.
15 years ago was
the harpsichord.
Harpsichord?
That's what it's called. It's called a harpsichord. The thing where you gotta.
Let's just ask my good.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it calls a harpsichord.
Accordion.
Does anyone else have like a very much like lustrous attraction to Jiminy Cricket?
I was so.
Do you know who voices him?
Yeah, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
But I mean, I
didn't clock it until I saw the documentary.
I was kind of hoping that you just see the cricket at one point, like in the whale, just like fucking shooting up heroin.
Yeah. But he's also like, Pinocchio's trying to get out, and he's like, Pinocchio, I have the high ground.
But did you ever notice that whenever he began a song, he would get like cut off?
That was so good.
But like, I think there's just it's one of those pieces of media where, you know, someone who was less smarter than me would say something like, you should watch it, and I would be like, man, that's not that good, because I'm quite big-brained. And then eventually I would watch it, and it's actually really good. It's just like small little things, like they say, you know, you have a bigger nose if you lie, and if you actually realize the circus master has a really, really long nose.
Exactly.
And it's just like really cool little small details, which are anything that Guillermo del Toro actually like puts point forward. And I just think it's like a really also like, it's almost depressing, the story, because everyone dies, sort of like everyone
but then at the same point it's a PG and is aimed for a younger audience. But it was
very dark.
It was dark. But
Mussolini turns up and they become Nazis. I'm sorry to I mean like that's like it's bizarre, it's wacky.
Yeah. Of course. And Guillermo del Toro does this fantastic job in a lot of his movies, in my opinion at least, with The Way of Water, Pan's Labyrinth. I don't think he had a direct part, but he definitely had some kind of a supervisional role in like The Orphanage or El Orfanato, a Spanish movie. But it's just like he balances the bounds of realism and mythos really well and tidily, that makes it feel also very naturally connected, that makes me really interested in the world that he's trying to develop.
And Pinocchio's a dark story. Like even the Disney one, like is well known. Like it gave, as a kid, it was terrifying for me. Like, you know, they get turned to donkey and the whales. And so it takes kind of a dark story. And Pinocchio, I mean, has been adapted many times.
Let's address the elephant in the room. There have been 3 Pinocchio films this year that have been released.
True. The live action,
which was fucking shit.
Well, the other one wasn't good either. It was some animated one where the guy's voice acting is absolutely hilarious. Like, well, hey horse, let's go.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
Oh my word, it's amazing.
But it's like, I mean, it really it hits a lot of the chords, and just in terms of, oh, there you go, accordia. It's just like the ending is really powerful in itself. It's kind of like
it's so good when he's aging.
It's all about that sort of.
Toro's
he walks with his
and then he disappears, and you see his grave appear.
Yeah. Like it's in terms of, you know, powerful storytelling. It's just like, it's really cool, because obviously Pinocchio was a bit of a rascal at the start. Jiminy Cricket wants power and fame over his cockroach pussy or whatever he wants. But like, in terms of just it's clever story writing, it's fucking fantastic animation. I mean, towards the
end, it's like an hour. It's like an hour and a half. It's just like.
It's not too long as well.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I wasn't evoked by emotion too much for any of the media we watched other than Elden Ring. I cried towards the end because I was like, Miyazaki-san, if you don't release Millennia foot pics. But like, I'm not usually, I'm pretty badass, okay? But no, like, in terms of, you know, like the scenes where it was him and, what was his head? Candlewick. That evoked real emotion for me in terms of like his dad not giving a shit and told him to shoot Pinocchio. Yeah, I was like, oh,
they're doing the Nazi training camp.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
That was funny. It was really dark.
And parts of Toro, I was like, I hate this monkey. I love this monkey. I love this monkey. You know, like it just completely turned for me. And I really, really enjoyed the angel designs and the other one. Yeah. Mainly because I thought it was trying to be like an interesting interpretation of a biblically accurate
with
angel.
The eyes.
With the eyes in the many wings, and one's death and one's life, but they're like two sides of the same coin. And then you got the rabbits there and they're just playing poker. This is the kind of crazy, weird stuff that I'm like, I just love to see more of that.
What's your opinion of other Guillermo del Toro works? Like,
well, I haven't watched any of
these. You should watch Pan's Labyrinth, 100%. But I've also just found it like another thing where it was, you know, the ending is so funny when Jiminy Cricket is like, oh yeah, and that's my story, and the rabbits are like, oh, we don't care, like shut up.
So because they're probably so accustomed.
Yeah, so accustomed.
But exactly.
What do you think of the musical elements?
Oh, I love the main song.
I thought they fit well. It felt whimsical. It felt of a different age. It felt like this. I think the best way to describe this as well. This movie feels timeless. You will be able to watch this in 50 years' time. It's kind of like the Disney cartoons where you can go back and you can watch them. I don't think there's anything too problematic in it. But then again, I don't know 50 years in the future and what will be acceptable or not.
I also really find it awesome.
It's a classic. It will be a classic.
I find it awesome that it's the way that Carlo dies is that he's bombed in front of Christ. However, the angels who come to save him are almost like an embodiment of, Christian religion with all the eyes and whatnot, and they save him. It's just sort of the embodiment of like.
But they don't save him. Like
They don't-
they're not. Pinocchio is not Carlo.
No, absolutely. Pinocchio is not Carlo. He wants to be Carlo, and in fact, it's more about saving Geppetto more than Carlo. But it's really cool that the fact that he got bombed in a church, and then the angels will so depict Christianity. She comes down and she feels so sorry for Geppetto that she wants to make another child.
There's a religious tie there.
Yeah, there's a huge religious tie. And it's also just really great that the whole story about him wanting another Carlo, but at the end doesn't realize that he needs Pinocchio is like a really great, just twist. I mean, it's quite funny actually. I did laugh when
charming maybe as well.
Yeah, Mussolini just shot him.
No, he was like, I do not like this puppet.
Shoot him. And then I was like, that's funny. Okay, I can laugh at that because it's so ridiculous. But it's just like, there's a whole like I poo in my helmet, and it's like, that's obviously quite aimed at children. It's very childish. But at the same time, like I didn't think I would really enjoy it because I watched I came in and I watched the ending with Lars, and I was like, this is so stupid. Like everyone's dying. The Mao. But then I came back to it and I was like, actually, that's really depressing. Like, that's actually so sad.
Good. Yeah. And with that, folks, there's a very long end to this. Very long video. I don't know how it's going to look in post. I'd like to thank you all for sticking with us through this, but also sticking with the channel in 2022. More videos will be coming back out, and you'll see that I'm planning on putting a tally of all, so we have a point of all our different rankings and then aggregating them, and then we'll find out which is objectively, according to these three masterminds, the best media. If you have any comments on how we can make this better, please put it in the comments below. We will probably change it and refine it for next year and try new stuff.
I think it'd almost be better to have more like constructive criticism. I feel like on this kind of a format.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're my mates, feel free to DM me personally as well. I know not all of you comment and sometimes DM me, and I'll share it to these guys, and we'll make it better. Because the only way I will be able to get these guys to watch the Vinland Saga anime is if we indeed do this again. So,
what the fuck are you talking about? I have read the whole Vinland Saga manga.
Don't make me react. But obviously give credit to Jarky Bacon. Subscribe. You can add to the addition of 1,000 subscribers.
Woo! Thank you.
And I mean, it's also such a privilege to be able to enjoy 100%. Such a it was such a fun project.
Oh yeah.
I mean, now the payoff is here. Is like, okay, we finally get to tell how we.
We started at 2 and we're here at almost 11. So we can say testament.
Let's cut it.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And we'll see you guys next time. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.